You get a sin bin. You get a sin bin. You get a sin bin. Boys, I'm not sure if it's the best rugby league competition in the world or if it's an episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show. Round 7, fair bit of sin bidding. AFL Gather Round. City of Churches turned it on. A lot of people there braving the wet and some good attendances down there in Adelaide. Cricket, our Delhi Capitals are still stinking it up. There's a few Aussies playing for Mumbai. Maybe we'll jump on the old Mumbai Indians train, although they're not going much better than Delhi. NBA, giddy up. Josh Giddey having an absolute worldly game there for OKC in the play-ins. We'll be chatting all things play-ins and play-offs. EPL, could Chelsea get relegated? Probably not, but it's a fun thing to think about. And the final round, very quick final round tonight. Few biffs, Jake Paul, Nate Diaz, etc., etc. G'day, welcome to On The Esky, Aussie sports podcast, where we like our Australian sports, we like our footy, we like our cricket, but we also like talking about the wider world of sports. On YouTube, we have timestamps. Check it out. You can skip to the sports that you like, and also we have Instagram, Facebook, and the like, so check us out on that. We like to start off the show by shouting a beer to commend excellent work in the sporting arena during the week. I'll pass it over to you, Shauno. Nice green hat that you've got on there. One of the three that's in your rotation.
Yes.
Who are you shouting?
Depends who's up this week.
That's right. Who are you shouting a beer this week?
Following in from the intro, I'm shouting a beer to the sin bin. I thought it was an interesting kind of tidbit this week with through, 7 rounds? It was 43 sin bins so far. I think it was 45 if you include the 2 from today's game of the Raiders and Dragons, compared to the 20-odd last season and 19, I think the year before. The sin bin has been at the forefront of the NRL. Which has been quite interesting. And I thought the history of the sin bin, the actual word, used, like you commit sin, go to a bin, was quite interesting. I think a few churches maybe could implement that, and it might be an interesting take on asking for some forgiveness. But yeah, 1981, I think Rugby League introduced the sin bin, and Barry Jensen, I think, was the first to officially be put in a sin bin. But it's more terminology, I think, used by us officially. Ice hockey, I think, is where the slang comes from with the penalty box, and they obviously must refer to it a little bit about sin bin, and that's kind of where the history books say it originated, but the official sin bin for the NRL was 1981. And there's been a fuckload of them so far this season. So, yeah, we'll have to see how that progresses and whether they maintain their heavy-handed approach to policing the game.
Enjoy your beer, courtesy of the Esky, the sin bin. You just pour it down that big throat of the bin.
That's it.
Monks, I don't know if this guy's old enough to drink, but who you got?
Maybe not. So I am shouting Gout a beer. He is an Australian runner in the Australian Junior Athletics Championships. He won the 200-metre race, breaking the 21-second mark, finishing the race at 20.87 seconds, breaking the record that was previously held by 3 people, Darren Clark, Paul Green, and Zane Branco. I was missing letters every single time I said that last name. So just huge props to young 15-year-old racing in under 18s race. Just absolutely smash 200 metres.
What was the time that he ran?
He ran 20.87. So, yeah. Split that over 100 metres and still running very quick. So great to see youngsters in the Australian camp putting up nice numbers, obviously leading into probably for us the Australian Olympics coming up in a few years' time up in Brisbane. So great to see that.
And just the one beer for Gout.
Yeah, just the one beer. We don't want to give him 2 beers for two sets of gout. I don't know if you
double
can
gout.
do that. Yeah,
flare it up.
What about you, Peppy?
Yeah.
Expensive one for me, boys. I'm going to shout the Matildas a beer. It was just a friendly over there in the UK, but they did beat the defending European champions in England 2-0. England really dominated possession in this one, but we came away with the bickies. Another nice sort of thing from this game was 3 players from each side had no names on their jersey to represent 1 in 3 people in the UK who will develop dementia. Most people, know someone affected. If it's not your nan, it's someone that you've come in contact with. So good little bit of awareness there, and good from our girls getting a massive sort of mental victory over the Poms, who are pretty handy at the moment. And it's the last game for the Matildas for a little bit. They just have the one friendly against France, and then into a home World Cup. So enjoy responsibly, girls, and hoping for big things come July.
I think that you missed one major thing about this story. Guess how long England's unbeaten streak was?
30
matches.
30
matches.
Yeah.
They were going for
matches,
31,
wow.
and the Australians broke that for them. Impressive.
Always good to get a win over the old enemy.
Oh, definitely.
In any sport.
Indeed. Mop of the week time.
Yes.
Look, I'm going to announce it, but one of you boys can go give it to him personally, because Victor the Inflictor, you'd hate to get on the wrong side of him. And again, sort of sticking with the sin bin theme of tonight's episode and, the last few weeks. But most sin bins in the NRL era for Victor with 8. Shauno, you got the story?
Yeah, well, I think you kind of highlighted there with calling him the, Invicta. He's been punishing ball carriers, the ball runners, essentially the first receivers, a little too much, coming in with those late hits, slightly a bit lazy and having to be sat down. And yes, so he's got 8 sin bins in his career so far. Latrell was second at 7. And then you have to go to Billy Slater, who's been retired for a couple of years now, who at 6. So, yeah, there's been questions asked about Victor Radley and his playing style with every Roosters game basically at the moment has its obligatory Victor Radley sin bin in it. So whether that means his style of play needs to change at all a little bit. I think some of Trent Robinson's comments post-game is like, yes, we're going to work on that area. We don't want him, to be missing large portions of the game because he's really an 80-minute dude. And maybe he just wants cheap breaks. That's why I was just like, I need a rest. I'll hit this ball carry and sit down for 10.
Need some excuse to get off the field.
Yeah. But either way, yes, he's quickly racking up the sin bins. I think that was his 3rd this year. I know he had this one this round. He had one last round, and I think he had one early in the season already. So his numbers quickly rising because of it.
I think as well, they might be 1-7 or 0-8 in games where he does go to the bin. So obviously, an enforcer on the field, and teams love that. But if it's costing your team, premiership points, and we know how dear every game is in the rugby league, maybe Victor needs to adjust his playing style. It is a shame a little bit for the neutral because he has no regard for his own body whatsoever. For just throwing it around. But yeah, if he's putting other players at risk and ultimately it's a team game, and if your team's losing every time you end up in the bin, thank you for your shouting a beer and giving us the 45-year history of the said sin bin. I think Victor maybe needs to think about the way that he's going about things.
Yeah, and a few of them are brain stamps. I know the last one last week was, he was a step late and he hit the first receiver of the halfback, I think, high in the head. And so in today's football, you're going to sit down for 10. I didn't see the one from the other night, but I assume it was probably of the same sort of variety. A bit of a late hit trying to be aggressive and, having to sit down.
Anyways, like I said, you can go tell him. Here's your mop from the Esky, Victor, and also for choosing to play for England.
Yeah.
All right, boys, that does lead us into round 7. Let's talk some rugby league.
I also can't wait to have to talk about his eligibility when we start talking about State of Origin in a couple of weeks.
Well, it should be done now that he's played for England.
Well, it should be ruled out.
Yeah, well, it is.
I guarantee Fittler's going to fight hard to get him in the squad.
Maybe. I think back row probably pretty sorted. Anyways, let's wrap up this round 7. Did kick off Thursday night with the Dolphins going down 14 points to 36 against South.
I have been meaning to ask you this. You're not too bad at the fins up. What's a fins down? Can you do a fin like a sad dolphin or a dying dolphin? That's not bad. Fins down.
It's just been torn to shreds by a great white shark. Fins.
In this case, a little rabbit. So.
Yeah, go figure. But it was Little Rabbit versus Big Rabbit. It was Apprentice versus Master, and the apprentice, Jason Demetrio, getting the bickies in this one. He did say during the week, of course he was going to say it, that Wayne Bennett is the GOAT of coaching, having been his understudy for quite some time. Trell Mitt, he's playing pretty good footy after a little bit of a quiet start to the year. Instrumental in this one. He had a meat pie, try assist, 100-odd metres gained. But we've got to start talking about Campbell Graham, boys. He currently leads the NRL, or co-leads it with 8 tries. He does lead the NRL with 10 line breaks. He's nearly run for 1,000 metres in 7 games. Any chance he breaks into this Origin side? Now, I'm going to probably rule out playing in the centres.
Yeah, it's basically wing option now with the Fox hurt.
Yeah, that's essentially the chat.
And there's been some silly chat about putting Turbo on the wing and try to put someone like Whiten in the centre so he can then play Nico Hines at 6. So, yeah, there's been some interesting kind of conversations about trying to break into this stacked backline that is New South Wales.
Yeah.
And we'll get to Hines in just a second. But, yeah, I think there's probably a world where Campbell Graham does have a 5 on his back come Origin time. We can start talking about Origin now. Early on in the year, people will say, it's too early to start talking about it. But it's only a month away, yeah. So definitely have to consider it. You'd think Latrell and Turbo probably play 3 and 4 with Teddy having the 1 on his back. And you hate to see, Josh Addo-Carr, the Fox, going down with that syndesmosis last week.
I think they were saying, no, he won't make game 1. He'd be able to make
it's about
2.
Yeah,
so.
Best case scenario is probably 8 weeks.
Yeah. And still, they come back and then got to play into form. Plus, you're a speedster, and
plus
you've just
isn't the incumbent either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it'll be tough. I think that if anything, it's Daniel Tubu's spot that's up for question, and they might look to replace him with someone. And Campbell Graham maybe fits into that a little bit, but then again, he's not really a winger. So
I think he'd be fine out on the wing. He's definitely not doing his chances any harm.
No.
He's already been in the system and being an extra, carried through the last few Origins. But I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks into the starting 17 this year.
Agreed.
Another little bit of South news. They've actually moved their home base from Redfern to Maroubra, new $60 million centre of excellence out at Heffron Park, Maroubra. So a lot of history at Redfern Oval. Was their home for half their premierships. I've got the old map out, boys, and I was like, Maroubra is still South Sydney territory, but there is some sort of strange line about Coogee, I think, where it switches over to Chook's territory. But it is interesting now that they're going to be moving from Redfern. I think it's like literally happening, mid-season. A lot of history. They played at Redfern until the 90s, the old suburban grounds.
Yep.
Possibly the most iconic suburban ground.
Yeah, it was their big kind of spot when they got back into rugby league as well, to re-get their license back, and the celebrations from all that, ending up at Redford Oval. So it's a big part of their history. Redford. I don't know what they do. What do they do with that ground now? Does it just become
New South Wales Cup? I'm sure it'll still get used.
Yeah,
it's just I think the training facilities, given some of the other teams' state of the art facilities these days, South were thinking, well, we're a big money club. We need a big money facility.
Exactly. We've got some coin to burn. So
indeed,
that's the way the sports world's going at the moment.
Now, Sharks 22 beat Roosters 12 at PointsBet Stadium, and that man, Nico Hines, a little bit quiet in the first half, but he absolutely turned it on in the second half, and it's the first talking point from this Friday night is Nico Hines. Does he break into that Origin side? Dally M, one of, if not the best player in the league right now.
Did we mention he got paid last week? Did that happen? I can't remember when exactly that happened, but he got paid as well.
Yeah, so signed on till 2029.
6-year deal.
Biggest deal in Sharks history.
Yeah, $7 million, I think, in total.
Said he'd sign a 20-year deal and have, going into a coaching role if that was available, something along those lines.
That's his career, isn't it? Because he's a late starter too.
Yeah, he's not that young. Can you
feel like he's like 26.
Yeah, maybe
Jimmy?
25, 26.
Yep, 26.
Oh, nice.
So 60, that's like
32. So
yeah, basically, he plays whole.
that was definitely his peak years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it just shows that he's peaking his powers now, and he's really the heart of that Sharks team, and they've played a lot better since he's been back. And yes, he should play 6, but hopefully they don't beat him.
From the blue jersey of the Sharks to the blue jersey of the New South Wales Blues, he has to be in the 17. I don't care if you want to try and use him as a utility, although I think Whiten might be better suited to that, or possibly Burton.
Well, Whiten played probably his worst game of the season today, so I think Nico Hines is probably in the run of form. Jack's got a month to kind of sort his play.
And Burton probably not exactly at where he was last year. And then
Doggy's struggling.
And then the big question is, do you just break up that Penrith's 6, 7, 13, and does Jerome Luai miss out? Because you'd think, on a head to head sort of one-on-one sort of comparison, Nico's probably got him covered in all aspects.
Yeah, well, if we're doing the schoolyard picking teams, then Nico Hines will probably get picked first.
So it's going to be a tough decision for the Blues to make, and Freddie's going to have to think about it. But what do you do? Do you go with arguably the best player in the comp, playing a little out of position in a new combination, or do you go with the the incumbent and the combination of the Panthers boys in Luai and Cleary that's been there for the last few years?
Yep.
Yeah.
Second talking point from Friday night: 6 sin bins. We don't want to, arc on about it too much, but there was 3 in this one. There was 3 in the next game, and it kind of felt a little bit different in terms of viewership or viewing the game. It felt like rugby league's definitely taken a bit of a turn into the way that they want to officiate. The hip drop seems to be a big part of this. We've spoken about it on this podcast before, but I suppose we're going to have to keep talking about it.
Yeah,
what's your take, Sean?
It's going to be the big topic, and I think we ran the stats. It was 10 sin bins in total for this round across all of them. 7 through the first 3 games, so they tiled it down a little bit. There were 2 in the Raiders game today, but both of those were professional fouls and were warranted. So
cheating fucks.
But a lot of them have to do with player intent to injury. So it's either something's high, something's late, or it's hip drop. That's where we're getting these sin bins from. So hip drop is the big one at the moment. It's probably, as we talked about last week, because the biggest grey area, so that's why it's the hardest. I think I put Billy Slater's quote in there later that there's about 12 hip drops a game, and there's not being refereed consistently. And some of the stuff maybe isn't hip drops, but then like a guy wraps around and gets caught up in the legs, and then you cause injury to the legs, and it looks bad, so that they get set into the bin as well. This one, so it kind of like the Nat Butcher one. He grabs him around the waist and he kind of slides down and he lands on the back of the legs.
That was momentum. You talk about intent. There's no intent there to land on Mulatalo's legs. That was just pure momentum, and he ends up in the bin.
Yeah, I think we covered that last week as well. When a guy's like running through the line and you're trying to bring him down as he's going through the line, you're essentially facing backwards. So you are going to end up in that kind of position. I saw one which was probably worse than that, was more like a horse collar, and that I didn't think ended up in anything. But there was some, like I was saying, it's just hard to officiate. It's hard to cover the different types of potential. Like some end up with bad injuries and some end up with nothing, and then that shouldn't be a factor, really. No, but I guess a lot of these aren't being adjudicated by the referee on the field. They're getting the replay from the booth. Booth is saying, hey, that looks bad. That looks like a hip drop. Send him off for 10. So, I don't know. I'm going to be, the pinnacle of the game. We always talk about they have a big stance on something leading up into the start of the season. Probably like escalates Magic Round, and then we've got to see how are they going to officiate this come Origin, because I guarantee the tired bodies and the high impact and brutal nature of Origin there'll be hip drop aplenty. So,
And I guarantee there'll be less sin bin.
yeah, because it will affect and change the outcomes.
Yeah.
We've seen that a lot of clubs that get the sin bins end up losing. So
You summed it up perfectly with 2 words when you said grey area.
yeah,
It's, mate, 50 Shades of Grey. Fuck. If it wasn't about rooting, it would be about hip drops, which, I suppose you could interpret that in a way that you might. But it's hard to watch at the moment, I must admit. And yes, you do care about player welfare. You don't want blokes out there fracturing their shins because a guy's landing on there when he could have made an effort to not land on their legs. But some of them, like that Butcher one that we just watched.
Yeah, you can't run.
It's
without
just momentum.
Legs.
It's
you can't
just
run
momentum.
without legs, so you try to wrap up the legs, and in some instances, that means you'll end up falling on it incidentally. I think. Yes, I think players will learn very quickly that they have to do their best intent to not, end up kind of falling in that leg area. But I think they will probably still struggle with it for a large part of the game in the season. I will say though, with the amount of sin binnings they're having, it's kind of equaling out the games because each team kind of gets their own sin bin period. Because there's that many at the moment. It's like, well, you got your sin bin in the first half, you get yours in the second. But I don't know. It's just not great viewing overall because you get they're on 12 man, they're on 12 man. Heaven forbid we get down to 11. Because it is tough. It is a challenge.
The second game Friday night, which also featured 3 sin binnings, was the old Battle of Brookvale. Manly coming out winners 18-8 over Melbourne in this one. Big sort of shift. Cam Munster having to go to fullback with Nick Meaney out and Jonah Pezzett comes back in.
Yeah, they just didn't look right, I don't think.
Yeah, which is strange because Cam Munster played fullback a little bit last year when Pappy was out and absolutely lit it up a few times. But they were targeting him Manly. They put a few big shots on him, and I don't know if that was a game plan kind of thing.
Definitely try to take him out of the game. Tire him out, making him run back hard, and then belt him in the process. So. It definitely was kind of a plan, and he might not have got as good a service as he's had in the past playing out fullback, and maybe stifled them a little bit. And Manly are a good squad, and when they stand up, get the turbos firing a little bit, then DCE just needs to do what he needs to do.
And speaking of DCE, absolute masterclass from him. He's looking really, really good. Hasn't really slowed down at all this year. Boys, we spoke a few episodes about the South and Chooks rivalry. This rivalry is pretty heated and intense these days, or over the last 15 years. Since they played back-to-back grand finals.
Exactly, there was that period where they were both at the top of their powers and going back-to-back, playing in premierships, either against each other or leading into it. So.
And as a bloke that doesn't really like either of these teams historically, always good to watch them bash the shit out of each other.
Yep. Question on DCE. Do you think he's Origin Queensland halfback?
Yeah, I think so. I think they pick him at 7 and have Hunt playing as a utility. It's worked for him in the past.
I don't really think Walker's stood up enough. And he's probably not ready for that kind of.
No.
Yeah. So yes, I tend to agree that might be easier to pick some of the Queenslanders. I think 7 and 6 will be sorted barring any injuries.
Yeah, and that's the two blokes that we just talked about in Munster and DCA. That rolls us into Super Saturday. The Warriors continue the Cowboys' misery, 22-14 winners over there at Mount Smart Stadium. We were speculating about Tamare Martin last weekend. Poor bloke did have a fibular fracture, so that gets Dylan Walker into the 6. Played okay, scored a meat pie, his first one since 2021. And they had a bit of cattle coming back into the side with Tohu Harris and Dallin Watini-Zalesniak. And the Warriors, they're looking pretty handy.
And they're very good at home. So they're definitely loving that extra advantage, I think, so far.
Spoken about it over the last 2.5 years. The old Gosford Warriors, they're pretty happy to be back home.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And it's definitely showing to start this year. And I think Sean Johnson is, healthy, fit. That's where they need him. And he's been very, very good for them.
He's been a revelation. Fantasy / Supercoach superstar as well. Didn't kick particularly well in this one, 3 of 7, but didn't end up costing them, and it was a bit of a scrap fest, actually. They probably didn't really on paper deserve to win the game, but they did defend their line pretty well. I think they had 13 errors and less than half of the footy. Boys, we're going to talk a little bit about Jason Taumalolo, former Dally M winner. At one stage was head and shoulders the best forward in the game. I think he's starting to slow down a little bit. He's only halfway through this super contract. Turns 30 this year. Look, obviously, the Cowboys' lack of success so far, it's not all on him, but maybe a little bit of a factor. We see big contracts over in the NFL. We're sort of big fans of American sport. It's an interesting one, these long-ended contracts. Maybe a good comparison is Buddy Franklin. Did a lot early in his contract with the Swans, and then obviously he's going to age a little bit. Do you just go, well, it's worth locking him in and securing him at the moment? I think Todd Payton's already said something along the lines of, well, if Taumalolo doesn't play another game, he's already worth the money that we paid. Is that your kind of view of it?
Yeah, well, I think the other side of it for the club also is, he's locked in, and as salary cap increases, then it becomes less of a burden against it.
Great point.
So there's that aspect of it too. But you're still paying him trying to pay him $1 million a season to be
a lot of money for as it stands, mediocre middle forward.
Yeah, guy that's playing 60 minutes at the moment.
That,
so. And the fact, I think he was pretty okay last year, and the year before he was injured. Like he had the hand injury and was in and out of the squad. So
he broke his hand like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, so he's had some tough runs in that as well. And I wouldn't say it's just him slowing down. Yeah, have a look at the whole Cowboys team. Where are they at the moment? They're in struggle town. So they've don't have the same momentum as they did last year so far. I guess they've been found out a little bit from last season as well. A lot of people now know what to expect from the Cowboys, so they're not getting shocked or surprised. So they very much seem to be in struggle town. They just haven't been able to score decent points, haven't been able to get anything going. There's nothing really coming out of. Deedon played the last Origin game. I don't think he'd be in the conversation at the moment with the way the halves have been playing, and they're just really not getting anything out of the backs. Felt scored his first try last week. They're in, like I said, struggle town.
Struggling to score points is the key, I think, from what you've just said there. This is their totals from round 1: 19, 16, 12, 24. Well done. 14. 22 and 14. So two times they've scored more than 20 points.
Yeah.
You don't tend to win too many games if that's the case. Defensively, pretty solid, but they're obviously missing something in attack.
And maybe that's a little bit of go forward, a little bit of that pack not really getting over the advantage line for them to push them into the positions they need to open up that space for the for the little men, for the back line. So, yeah, it's... Definitely. That's the way I feel. Struggle town.
Have Newcastle at home this week. So if there's any, match-up to get your season back on track, perhaps this one. But that's a good segue.
Yeah, considering how well Newcastle played Penrith at home this week on Saturday, finishing up really a masterclass, I guess, from Nathan Cleary to win and goal point.
Clutch.
Yeah, it was kind of the typical... this is the reason why in the NFL they changed the ruling to give the opposition team a chance after, you hand the ball to Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. They just go straight down the field, get the point, job done. And, Penrith, you could see in that last 10 they were really lifting to the occasion. They were getting, 70 metres like every set. And going into overtime, they won the toss, got the ball kicked to them, went down, kicked it, job done within a couple minutes.
So. You do watch too much NFL over time, but it's a good comparison.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say it again. Clutch.
Yeah.
Clutch.
Definitely.
The pedal to the left of the brake. One of those little bag things that chicks wear that don't have the handle or whatever. Nathan Cleary. Yeah. They're all clutch.
Yeah.
Bit of a stretch of a joke there, but anyway. he's so good. That 2-point field goal that he kicked a couple of weeks ago, and then 2 in a row, one to force,
well, he missed his first one,
golden
which
point, and then one to win it.
Yeah, and give Newcastle all props. This is a bit of a fiery game as well. It was a lot of back and forth in it. They really got into it. The Tyson Gamble field goal to give them the lead essentially. With 2 minutes to go, and they probably should have held on. But yeah, like I said, the Penrith just were too good. They got the meters when they needed it. Went through their forward pack, and they set it up nicely for Cleary to sort it all out.
It's just riding Cleary a little bit there, but another bloke that needs a bit of riding, Isaiah Yeo, 47 tackles, 0 miss. That's obscene in itself. 147 metres gained, 2 tackle busts. He is the heart and soul of this Penrith team. And Phoenix Crossland playing 9, played pretty well for Newcastle. He'll be there, I suppose, for the foreseeable future. Scans come back during the week. Poor Jaden Brayley, ACL confirmed.
Liam Martin was hurt.
Hammy, I think.
So
recurrent hammy, I believe.
I think there's some concerns for him. And again, going into the Origin period, Jimmy might be able to find that.
We missed Koloamatangi as well, I think, from the South game. So there's an incumbent second rower in Liam Martin, and then a lot of people had sort of highlighted Keon Koloamatangi. So that's probably going to be a edge back rower's spot available. Koloamatangi's syndesmosis, so definitely will miss. Liam Martin's going to depend on the severity of this hammy.
Yep, to be confirmed at the moment. Okay. Would you be worried with Penrith in their season, considering they just scraped past Newcastle, or is this just good game management on their end?
Hard to tell. You last week they go out there and put 30 on Manly in 30 minutes, and you go, here's the Penrith side that we've become accustomed to over the last few years. But they have had a few of these sort of survived a scare here, lost round 1 to Brisbane at home. Obviously losing Appy, is big for them. And
I think their first half was very average from Penrith, and that really gave Newcastle, the sniff, and they really tried to push it hard in the second. But Penrith just came home too strong in this. They were very much on top with the last 10 minutes, and then into overtime, into the golden point.
Was there a penalty for hair pulling?
Yes, on Luau. He, run down the left sideline. They grabbed his locks, grabbed his locks part plus jersey, and then pulled him down with a tackle, and then got a penalty. And then, that of course has piqued the media's interest with the dinosaurs. It's like, then every player should grow their hair out long so they can get easy penalties. I was actually surprised to see it was a penalty. But then again, in my head, watching too much NFL, I just like, I thought, their rule is the hair is part of the jersey. It's considered part of it because it flaps over it. That's very much the Troy Polamalu rule because I think he got a hair pull in one of his pick sixes once as well.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So, the clarifying that, yes, if you wear long hair, it's a choice, and therefore it is then part of the jersey and it's a tackleable area. But it's an interesting thought, considering the mullet is very much very in with a lot of
I reckon it's like 1 in 3 blokes would have long hair in the league these days.
Just grow it out, past shoulder length, and you get the extra potential for a penalty if they go up a little high. So, interesting. I'm not sure if anything will come from this. Maybe the NRL, like I just said, will come out with a clarification on penalty or not. If it is, you might see a bunch of blokes with the locks flowing on the weekend.
Here's one for you, and it's just come off the cuff. Who's a traditional baldy that you would have loved to see with long hair? Darren Lockyer comes to mind. You imagine? Yeah, he would look good, I reckon.
He's wispy, yeah.
Or you got like a Peter Sterling who
did,
who had it, and then
he's the classic one. He had the locks and then lost the lot. I'm thinking of baldies. Who's
current baldies or any day baldies? What about the Mad Dog McDougall, Adam McDougall?
Yeah, Adam McDougall.
The man shake. Not short of a penny these days, don't they?
No.
Anyways, one to think about. Let us know.
Yeah.
Love to hear people's thoughts on hair pulling in the NRL.
The Broncos get the job done in a high-scoring affair against the Gold Coast. They started pretty slow, the old Bronx, and then got it the job done in the second half. 7 separate try scorers. Did you catch much of this?
I didn't, but I did watch the highlights after I saw the score in this. 50 points in 30 minutes, essentially, in that second half. About the 10 minutes in the second half was better when they turned it on. I think the Titans scored 2 tries and the Brisbane themselves scored
7.
7. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I didn't. It wasn't 30. It was 30 points. Yeah, they scored 30 points. So
there was 4
in the
4 from Brisbane in the last 30 minutes and 2 from the Titans.
6 in 30.
6 and 30. So yeah, it was a bit of a try fest to end it. 2 of those were long range, like either a kick was put through or like a failed intercept that they put on the boot.
Yeah.
And then there were long range, like proper long range tries going 80 meters for it. So I think that's the Bronx got all the luck in this one with a couple of those. Reece Walsh, of course, still elite, scored one himself. And they come back after losing to the Raiders. They've kind of come back to where they were putting 40 burgers on people.
Got to keep talking about Origin, don't we? Reece Walsh going to play for Queensland?
He probably won because Ponga's
You choose him over Ponga
at this
current
stage,
form, yeah.
And do you fit Ponga in as 14? But then he's Ben Hunt really stiff to miss out in that regards. Yeah, it's going to be that's probably the most interest is who will play one. Walsh is probably locking that up at the moment, and whether do you play Ponga on the wing? Maybe there's a wing spot.
Cobbo and Coates pretty handy.
Yeah, Coates has been playing well for Melbourne.
Even look like that. Their centres, Holmes, Gagai's been pretty good.
Yeah, I think they're incumbents.
Probably the only person that might have something to say about that is the Hammer.
But Hammer's kind of shown his. Well, yeah. Do you play the Hammer on the wing or do you again put him at one? Tough choices there. I think one is for Queensland. One is probably the most interesting, and then if who they pick at one, who then flows out and plays 14 for you.
Good problem for Billy to have. Last few years, we've probably always said, it's a push in the forward packs. Spine maybe a push, maybe slightly Queensland, but the outside backs is New South Wales. Yeah, all day and all night. But now some of these young Queensland outside backs are starting to develop and a bit of experience, through the centres with Holmes and Gagai. It's going to be an interesting decision for the selectors and for Billy Slater to make.
It's be interesting if they take again. You talk a bit about Ben Hunt and Harry Grant, who's 9, who's 14. Same sort of that conversation. What do you prefer in that?
But both of them have to play. It's just the number on their back.
There's some, Ruben Cotter or Patrick Carrigan. There's some, who do you pick out of those guys? So, if anything, maybe the front rowers, I have question marks. I think Welsh probably comes back in that side.
Didn't play at all last year. I think him and Tino maybe start and Papali'i off the bench.
Yeah, could be. It's same sort of conversations, but, everyone talks about New South Wales more than they do about Queensland.
All right, runs us into today. The Raiders get a scrappy win against Dragons. There, Shauno's got his green hat on. I've got my Dragons hat on. It was just about a scoreless first half until big Tautau Moga busted over just before half time. Both teams defended pretty well in that first half, and the game really opened up in the second half. Bit of ill discipline from the Jacks, Jack DeBellin and Jack Bird, leading to some Raiders points. And then Canberra pretty much looked to have the game wrapped up before
to go.
Before Jack Wyden gave it straight back to Tautau Monga. He goes about 60 metres. He played a pretty good game, old Tautau. But the Raiders get the job done. Ricky emotionless up in the box after the win. Raiders getting their season back on track after starting very poorly, but go up and get that big upset win last week in Brisbane, and then win a bit of a slog down in the capital today. Definitely not the best viewing for the neutral with a lot of drop ball, but it went down to the wire.
Yeah, the error count was dismal.
It was crazy, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 8-1 at the half to the Raiders, and then it finished 15-16 or something.
Yeah, it was like high. Can you get? It was at 15,
13,
14, 27 errors.
Yeah. So yeah.
Quick maths is an error every 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It was, it wasn't a great game. There was a lot of there was a lot of periods where the one team would be buried in one half, but neither of these teams looked like they knew how to score points either. It was like, let's do 4 1-outs at the line and then maybe put it up for a kick and see what happens. Seeing this, I think both teams are kind of struggling a little bit at the moment. The Raiders, I think Chris has kind of been playing better as a fullback.
He kind of looked like he's hitting his straps.
Yeah, he like last week he was improving. This week I think he's actually trimmed down a little bit as well, kind of getting into that fullback mould, which is interesting because you got Savage played New South Wales Cup, so he's coming back from his broken jaw
Next week, you'd imagine.
Yeah, so does he slide into one, or is with Kotrick maybe Hammy? Does he go as a wing spot potentially?
No, I think Savage will go straight to the one, and I think it'll be an easy-ish decision. Given how Kotrick's hammy ends up, but he didn't finish the game, so you'd imagine he's not playing next week. And
so what are you doing in your centres then? If you're pushing Chris into the centres, and Marco is not going anywhere, so you booting Croker out again?
You can't. He was great with his boot, leadership.
I think it was actually quite interesting because you can see the Dragons targeted him heavily, trying to, thinking he was a weak link in the defensive line.
He defended pretty well.
And running the big boys at him. And, he did a really solid job.
There was one in the first half where he went ball and all, one-on-one on Moses Sully. He's probably got 15 plus kilos on him and got the job done.
Yeah, so I think he's doing his job. He's playing very solidly. Maybe it doesn't offer you the X factor he once did in attack, but he kicks all the goals. Did he miss one in this one? I don't feel like he did.
I don't think he did.
He didn't.
No, and he didn't last week, so he's 100% so far on the season in his 2 games. So, that adds a difference because Lomax on the other side of it couldn't kick anything.
The wind, I think, a bit of a factor, but it didn't actually cost us the game, but it
would have made it closer. Maybe you think about 2-point field goal instead of trying to score with the 17 seconds to go.
Well, I mean, it was 3 tries apiece. Lomax didn't kick any of the conversions, so if he had converted.
Yeah, and Jared Croker kicked the one penalty goal.
They both had penalty goals that they both made, so it would have been a draw game.
Croker, difference again.
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. So if you do that, you put Savage and you move Chris, Croker's probably the one you'd drop out of the centres. But then I don't know who you're going to play on the wing at this point if Kotrick's out, because I'm not sure if they would put Timoko out there on the wing.
Someone has to go out there because Jared Croker cannot be dropped. It's as simple as that.
Heard it here first. Cannot
it's as
be
simple
dropped.
as that.
Undefeated so far this season.
Capital letters.
Yeah.
All right, a bloke that might get dropped.
A lot of interesting chat.
Might.
It's, been in the rugby league rhetoric for the whole season so far. But
it was a big week, though. There's a lot of different news coming out about it.
Anthony Hook Griffin, the board is going to meet this week to decide on his future. Apparently, Billy Slater was asked to apply, and he said, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
Just, taking this Queensland side to win series when we essentially shouldn't have on paper.
Yeah, the media, of course, beats it up because it's Billy Slater. I don't think...
And it's media.
Yeah, I don't think Billy will take a club job, and if he does, the only one he'd take is probably Melbourne replacing Bellamy. But, it puts it out there. He's a young mind. He's won an Origin series, and Dragons have, put the phone call in and he said, fuck off.
Also notorious for poaching Queenslanders.
Yes. So that came out, that story. And then following that, there was more rumours about Nathan Brown, that the club wanted Nathan Brown to come back in some capacity, whether that's as an assistant coach, because you've seen that a lot actually in the NRL, where they have the assistant coach as a former head coach. But I guess for those guys as well, it's a good spot to be in, go to a good club. Then you might get picked up like all the Penrith boys did. it does help. Then there was, I don't know what he was on, but there was a conversation. They did an interview with Ben Hunt, and he basically said, "I don't want to do a rebuild here at the Dragons with another coach. It's it's basically hook for me or no one," which is a huge problem for the Dragons fans if they pick a new coach and he decides to fuck off. But I guess it depends on who they pick. But it sounds like writing on the wall, they're going to pick a new coach. Flanagan, Hornby, Riles, and Dean Young. Did Young actually head coach these guys at one point? Wasn't he in the interim? I feel like he was head coach of the Dragons at one point.
Dean Young?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he had one game where he's like he was a caretaker and he had it for one game, I feel.
Jimmy will get the answer for as that. But, a few old heads of Dragons history.
And Shane Flanagan.
And then, Shane Flanagan.
Who's a premiership winning coach.
Yeah, who's, just got a few sins of his own in the background and that bit of stigma that comes with that. That's why he's struggled to pick up a new job since his banning was lifted.
And all three of those other guys, part of St George Illawarra's only premiership win in 2010. They're all assistants at other clubs at the moment. So, like you said, it seems to be the way, with the Demetrios and the Serraldos and the Websters of, current head coaches that were assistants. I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of those three in Hornby or Royals or Young that ends up getting the gig.
Do you worry, though, they try to do what the Tigers are doing at the moment?
The Tigers and the Dragons are a perfect comparison in that they're both merger clubs. You've got these boards which are essentially, they've got
a shit show.
Shit show for one, shit show for one. But two, it's two clubs that, on a level outside of their NRL team, are separate clubs.
Yeah,
and then you get to the NRL level and they're trying to, act and be, play as one when obviously there's a clear divide.
Yep.
They're also quite similar in that, they both had a fair bit of early success into their mergers. And then more recently, obviously, West, their struggle was a little bit more, highlighted than St George Illawarra. But look, thankfully for the Dragons and Dragons fans, their on-the-field performances hasn't been as bad as what people had. Not that it's been great.
Yeah, they are 2-4, and they've had 2 40 burgers already put on them.
That is true.
And they've lost the last 3.
Yeah, so they lost last week to the Titans, and the week before that, was it the Broncos? But the week before, I feel like there's a win in there somewhere.
Jimmy, you'll chase that up for us. If you go draw and then set by teams and go draw.
No, I think you're right. I think they've lost 3 in a row because I'm pretty sure they had the bye and then
Titans.
And then they won and then
got 40 on them
by Brisbane.
Then got 40 on them by the Sharks. I'm seeing it now.
Yep. And then they beat the Dolphins.
So it's 2 on the trot. 2 on the trot.
So they've won 1 game in the last 4.
Yes. Then the question, with all this happening, what does the board do? Do they let Hook see out the year? Do they want to make a change? Who do they make a change to? It's interesting. I saw Adam Elliott, I think, there in one of the assistants for the Dragons, whether he potentially could be an interim former
Adam Elliott.
Yes, former Raiders and Warriors coach and Penrith coach, long term.
Matthew Elliott.
Did I say him?
Not Adam. What's his name?
Elliott. Head coach Elliott.
Adam Elliott is Newcastle player, former Canberra Raiders player.
There you go. Yeah. Matthew Elliott. Go Matthew.
Is it Matthew?
It's Matthew? It's Elliott something. No, it's something Elliott. Yeah, Matthew Elliott.
Yeah. Where's he at the moment?
He's an assistant coach of the Dragons.
Ah.
So,
again. Yeah, that's interesting.
So, again, another long-term former head coach in the coaching box of the staff. Whether he then becomes your interim, whether that's where the club goes. I think I love what you've put there where, I asked the question, where to he from the Dragons, D-Day being Anzac Day. It's not a bad joke, but
bit of history chat.
Yeah, a bit of history chat there. But yeah, Anzac Day, the Tuesday
week. If they get embarrassed on Anzac Day in front of
By
a
the-
big
by the
crowd
Roosters,
and a big, national audience, so that could be curtains for Hook.
Yeah, that's 3 in a row. 2 from 5. Their season's only gone in one direction. That could be it.
Time will tell.
So we think he survived the week. Is what we're getting at.
with no game in the next 7 days. Yeah, I'm going to say he does.
Survives the week.
He,
Yep.
he survives the board's meeting, I think, is what I'm getting at. But also, having said that, if they beat him early, they do get the interim coach in for the 7 days
they
to
win
prepare for
Anzac
the
Day.
No,
for the Tuesday game.
Wait till we get to Chelsea and Frank Lampard. It's not tried and trialed that.
Oh, there's one outlier in the stadium.
Yeah,
but
there's
it's
always
usually-
outliers.
It's usually pretty good to get one win.
Yeah.
Tough times for Dragons fans on the end of the table. Hence why I decided to wear the green hat. And those
Thanks for
salty
rubbing it in.
tears taste oh so nice.
That's right. I got one win this weekend.
Yeah, true. Pep's got none. Those tears, so tasty.
No tears here because I'm currently looking at that table, that ladder, and the mighty merger club shit show board that is the St George Illawarra Dragons, currently ahead of the Canberra Raiders.
Yeah, it's because they played the bye, bro.
Yeah, and we beat it. Unlike Tim Sheens and his West Tigers, who are engrossed in a hard-fought battle against the bye right now.
Yes.
Just briefly on them, Adam Dewey, partial ACL tear, not full rupture.
Okay, so that's not too bad, but it still means he's...
It's not the best news because it's twice that he's had that knee grafted.
It's his third injury to the knee, so yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what avenue they go. They may go straight for surgery, but it's concerning for a bloke, pretty young to be on his third ACL injury.
Yep.
And then just briefly, Parramatta took care of the Bulldogs this afternoon pretty
Beat 'em up.
comfortably. Was that 30-4, I think, was the final score. Bulldogs, again, maybe not playing up to that standard that, you'd think that roster with their ins, with Marnie and...
I think that's the problem, though. A lot of those ins are also injured. So
William and kick out, poor fella, tore his pec at training. He's looking at sort of 3 months for that one.
Of course, the Foxes we mentioned.
And the Fox last week,
So Burton, I don't think has been as good as he had been last year. So I think you said that before. They did get Pangai Jr. back, but he can be a bit boom and bust, as we know. So
Yep. Dogs have the longest injury list out of all the teams at the moment.
They're there.
Does not help.
No. Could be a long year there at the kennel.
Yeah.
Don't need to go back to sin bins.
I think we've covered all that stuff.
all those
Covered
numbers.
it pretty well.
Where we sit the ladder? What's the 8 looking like? Has any Sydney teams moved into the 8? Because we only had 2 last week.
No one's moved in. It's still just the 2. Did we have 2? No,
We got 4 in there now.
Oh yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Good maths.
Yeah, the Dolphins on a little bit of a slide, so fins down a little bit. Yeah,
That's a bit more like a dog. Anyways,
Dog.
the Broncos sitting up there on the only team that's on 12 points. Panthers and Warriors. Bro. The Warriors sit there in 3rd. Manly 4th. And then logjam time. Rabbitohs, Sharks, Storm, Dolphins, Chooks, Titans. 8 points into the Knights 7. Into another logjam. Eels, Dragons, Raiders, Bulldogs, Sixers. Those Cowboys starting to get a bit desperate with 4, and West Tigers definitely odds-on favourites for the Spoon, still winless.
so no undefeated teams left, and of course the Tigers, the only team not to win.
That happened last week with the undefeated teams. but
Yes, yeah. With the Broncos. I'm
wanna-
just confirming it.
Just want to talk about the Raiders. Again.
No, I'm just confirming it. So it goes into the AFL, because do we still have some undefeated teams in the AFL?
Zero undefeated in the AFL.
more.
after today. So maybe let's jump in and talk some AFL.
Pretty much a resounding success. I think the first gather round by all accounts. Adelaide have locked that in till 2026.
Was a little bit wet for a few of these games.
It was
but-
very wet. How's that? Adelaide gets its first, huge sporting event.
for
Festival.
the AFL.
Festival,
Yeah,
festival.
festival, yeah.
Festival of footy. And then it pisses down rain the whole Saturday. But
torrential for
Mind
places
you,
that
half the
fucking-
country was raining, so you
That
can't
is-
really
yeah,
blame
can't-
it on Adelaide.
on South Australia. And
Yeah, there's
the
a little
fans,
hurricane going across Western Australia.
well, and the fans, to their credit, still
Cyclone.
it's a big old thing. It's across the Pacific. Credit to the fans for still showing up in the pouring rain.
Would
on
it
the
change
Saturday.
names if it did cross the Pacific? Like if it went past the equator, would it go from a hurricane to a cyclone?
I don't know, but does it like on The Simpsons? Does the
It stop rotating.
starts
yeah, it
turning
starts
the other
going
way.
the other way, and then Bart Simpson's got to call Australia to confirm which way it goes, and Tobias has got to run to his neighbour's place. Fucking great episode. Mister Brian, Mister. All right, Thursday night, the Crom. They look
Up the Crom.
They look pretty fucking good. Absolutely belted Carlton in front of just a touch under 50,000 there at Adelaide Oval. Pretty worrying signs for my Blues. 0-7 at the Adelaide Oval. They were trying to play the defensive zone, and the Crom were just cutting right through it. Rory Laird, he's an absolute freak. He had some sort of crazy amount of possessions in the first quarter, ended up with 37 and a sausage roll. Jordan Dawson running right out on that wing. Troubling for the Blues, I would say.
Yeah, I think I was the only one that picked the Crom this week. So to back them, I thought, Adelaide at home, and they've been a little bit red hot. So the Crows, are they actually good? I think the answer is like yes.
I think the answer is yes. I think the only question to ask now is how good can they be?
How good can they be? Yeah. Can they compete with those big squads at the top? So, Blues were one of those. Maybe not so much anymore, but yeah, it's good to see them improve for the Blues. Are they hurt a little bit? Who'd they lose during the week?
In this game?
No, but didn't they have an injury leading up to this or from last week? I thought someone missed out. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. You might be right.
It sort of feels to me like the Blue Bangers might be banged up a little bit.
Can you chase up a injury list there for us, Monks? Just briefly back to the game. Darcy Fogarty booted 5-3 for Ben Keys. They did have Sammy Walsh return in this one. Didn't make too much of an impact, really. What do you got for us there? Sam Doherty.
Yeah, it might have been Doherty that I was thinking of. Didn't he get... I don't think he played in this game, but I think he got hurt during the week.
Yeah, during the week.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find the extent of his injury.
Injury list, here we go.
The next
4 to 6 weeks meniscus tear.
Meniscus, yeah.
Which hurts having the skip go down for a little bit. Yeah, you've got the whole list there, Marks.
Yep. Yeah.
It's pretty extensive.
There's a few there.
Blake Acres, I think, played in this one. Mitch McGovern's out for a little bit. Zach Williams, obviously, we knew for a while. He's out for the season. Yeah, they're a bit banged up, but nothing really. Okay, outside of Zach Williams and I suppose now Doc, it's no one really long term. So should have a bit of cattle coming back. Mm-hmm. Look, not too concerned. Obviously, that record at the Adelaide Oval is pretty concerning. They can't beat the Crom or Port there.
True, but losing by 50.
Yeah, it's nearly 60 actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, not good. But
No.
Crom, Gather Round, fired up.
yeah.
Look, worse things have happened. They're still.
Yeah, plus they kicked it off and everything, so they would have been right up for this game. So probably got them right at the wrong time. So, yeah.
Going to be a very interesting matchup next week because they play St Kilda.
Yes.
So
Also-
two of these teams that are maybe playing a bit overs from what people expected. So a nice litmus test for both of them.
True.
Dockers' Suns.
Dockers get the win in this one by 10 at Norwood Oval. I'll tell you what, Sandford might be a bit of fun because that oval looked really quite nice there at Norwood. Nearly 10,000 in there. I'll tell you what didn't look nice, that Freo jersey fucking was bland. Seriously, that Freo jersey was going to a Michelin chef restaurant and saying, could I have a bowl of white rice, please? Or in this case, purple rice. It was an ordinary Guernsey. Caleb Strong, very good as usual. Sean Darcy, we like to talk about him. Definitely a top 3 ruck in the AFL.
Well, I was going to ask you, is he confirmed 2 or do you think he's still 3?
Very different with Tim English, and we'll get to him in a second. But no, I think he's. I think I'd be.
Think he's 2 and maybe English 3.
I'm happy to have him as 2. 48 hitouts, 18 posies. He's fucking thick as well, and that's why him and English are kind of different. But yeah, in terms of his ruck work, unbelievable. You'd hate to ruck against him. Jeez, you'd be sore.
Yes.
4 sausage rolls for Michael Waters, and there's 3 for the young bloke Jai Amiss, and 3 for Lockie Schultz. Freo getting their season a little bit more back on track after a pretty ordinary start. 42,000 in Adelaide Oval. See, it felt like the G. It felt like the G in there for Gather Round. And the Swans getting a pretty convincing win against Richmond. I didn't actually catch much of this. I was watching a fair bit of that Battle of Brookie, but it seemed like the main talking points were Tom Papley kicking 6. Not a bad effort from him. And the Warner brothers. So Chad Warner of... I kicked it to him fame. He kicked it to Buddy in goal number 1,000. And also one of the best blonde perms getting around in the AFL. Maybe the only one. But his younger brother, Corey, debuts, and the Warner Brothers Joker got done to death. Thank you, Brian Taylor, and social media. But repeating it again here. Swannies, they're looking pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. What about the Tigers? The Tigers on the other end?
They're in struggle street.
Yeah, I think they're like 15th currently. With only the Suns, Eagles, and Hawks behind them. So
they've only got the one win and the draw on the opening night. And I think if this is maybe early crow here, early crime, if you will. I think it might be end of dynasty time for Richmond. Torino and Hopper are playing out of their skin, like bringing in these 2 guys that they poached from GWS, but Dusty's probably not quite where he was. Jack Rewalt pretty good in this, bird of 4. You see the fucking head got opened up.
Yes, yeah.
But I just don't see them up there with the top 4, top 6 AFL teams this year.
Yeah. Having said that, though, the Cats 2 weeks ago were last and now are 10th. So it's still early. Get a few wins and you turn around. But yeah, it's just the product of football they're playing at the moment. It's just not where it really needs to be.
Team that played pretty good football up there at Mount Barker. How good's that? Fucking just suburban ground, pretty much. Getting a run. Some nice wineries and that up there in the Adelaide Hills. And this was a bit of a tale of 2 halves. Pretty much a close game for quarter 1 and quarter 2. And then the Lions absolutely stomping the poor Kangas in the second half.
Could have been worse as well.
Yeah.
20 behind.
True. 22 goals.
Yeah.
Joey Danaher booted 5. Has 18 posies, all kicks, 13 marks. Pretty good from Big Joe Danaher. Lockie Neal, perennially good. He had 37. And Charlie Cameron and Eric Hipwood also contributing. The Cheezel, Harry Cheezel, gets his first AFL goal. He missed a bit of time with a quad cork and still gets 31. Kane Corns, saying, he gets a bunch from kick-outs, blah, blah, blah. Well, yes, he does. Yes, he does. And that is the way that the AFL works these days. But it's pretty crazy for an 18-year-old to have as many disposals as he's had in his first 5 games.
Yep. Only other interesting thing out of this was Jared kicked 2, and then he got subbed out so Jared Lyons could play.
Jared for Jared?
Yes, yeah. They can't have 2 Jareds on the pitch at one time. I think that's a faggy rule. So.
Superman and Clark Kent.
All right, man, come on.
You got the hat on. Should be happy.
See the bombers fly up. Hurts me singing that. Yeah. They're playing fucking good footy. Yep. Zach Merritt, Darcy Parish, always good. Sammy Draper, I'm surprised he didn't have the Draper.
I should have got that out.
Shirt. Yeah. They're playing good footy and they're second. And Anzac Day, geez, it's going to be good because it's second versus third.
Equal first, but on percentage, yes, they are second.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was great. I didn't catch all the game. Parts I did see, it was raining very heavily. So, take that as you will with the win. But yeah, just hopefully just keep on rolling.
Bring on Anzac Day. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, definitely. I didn't realize it was going to be 2 versus 3 and then 1 versus 4 as well. So that top order is going to be sorted.
Fun
A little
next
bit of
week.
movement.
Very fun.
What do you think about Melbourne?
I still think they're pretty good. I only saw highlights of this one. Difficult conditions. Yeah, I don't know if they are the best team in the AFL. Their record certainly suggests they're not, but on paper, I still think they've got the best list.
Well, they hammered the West Coast and Melbourne the last 2, and then of course I think they lose. Yeah, they lost to Brisbane in round 2, and then they've come back here and lost to the Bombers. They're there's some good sides in there. Swans aren't nothing to sneeze at, so they're an interesting one to think about and have a watch. So have to see how they progress.
It's a good competition this year.
Yeah, I think it's compared to where it was, and same for rugby league, the last 2 years, where it was like these 8 guys teams are like they clear cuts. Just what order they finish in. At the moment, it could be a lot of up and down. Anyone could finish anywhere. Of course, still early in the season, but there's no like clear cut outright. These guys are way better than everyone else, so they're just going to run the table. So.
Yep, 100%. 5 rounds in, every team's got a win, every team's got a loss. It's congested throughout most of the table. It's making for a compelling season.
Yeah.
A bloke that is pretty good is Clayton Oliver. Clary had 41 disposals in a losing side, including 20 in the final quarter. Into Saturday night, Port getting a win there, which means both Adelaide teams win on the inaugural Gather Round. They come away 14-point winners against the Bulldogs. This game was even wetter. Like it was torrential in this one.
I've seen some pictures and highlights from this. So yeah, it was bad.
Zach Butters and Rosie, pretty good for Port. This was an interesting little exchange between Ken Hinkley and Jason Horton-Francis. Really got in his face, trying to fire him up. There was passion. There was, possibly aggression. But then also came straight to his defence in the post-match presser, was copying boos from, what should be a home crowd. He said he made a courageous decision, leaving North Melbourne to come home, let the kid play footy. I think we kind of forget that he's 19.
Yeah, he's a young fella still finding his feet. So, and a very veteran long-term coach that knows how to get the best out of his players is definitely trying to G him up and try to get him involved, give him the confidence he needs. Saying like, yeah, you're shit hot. You know that. Let's do this. Yeah,
I like it. You kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't from Ken Hinkley. He's showing passion there and getting right in his face. But then also, I think where it matters.
Let's just be happy they don't have cameras in halftime speeches, because I guarantee these guys got in across all the leagues. Like
I'd say so.
Yeah, it's.
I'd maybe rather, like speaking personally, I'd rather someone have me in a presser and against the public and the scrutiny and the rest of it, but also to my face be a little bit passionate. So.
Yeah.
No, I quite like it.
It's part of his role as a coach. He's got to give him the areas of improvement where he needs to focus on and get better. And you want your coach to back him, be passionate about the team, about his job, about the club and the results they get.
Yeah, that's it.
Otherwise, you end up being the West Tigers.
Comes back to the culture of the club. Like, your coach obviously needs you to perform, but as long as he can show that he's got your back as well, like, it's all good.
The third best ruckman in the AFL, Tim English.
Yes, good old Johnny
English. That's a good movie. Yeah. Mr. Bean, Ultimate Disaster Movie. You just made me think of that. He fucks up the
some Rowan.
Yeah, Rowan Atkinson. Yeah, he fucks up the painting and then he draws it back on. I digress. He had 23 disposals, 17 of which were kicks in this one, 27 hit-outs, sausage roll, takes marks, tackles. Pretty much like having a fourth follower out there, or fourth midfielder. He's pretty good, old Johnny English.
Yep, definitely.
Rolls us into today's games. Geelong win big against West Coast Monks. We may need some scores if you wouldn't mind. Not in the notes, considering it was today. I did see Jez Cameron booted 4 and got pretty involved. Again, he's having a ridiculous start to his season. Definitely, if he stays healthy, an All-Australian. And Geelong really turned it on, in the last 6 quarters of footy, belting Hawthorn in quarters 3 and 4 last week.
Got a score there, Jimmy?
And pretty handed winners in this one.
Yeah. So Cats won by 47 points. They were 136, 21-10 against Eagles at 89, 13 and 11.
Yeah. Hawkins, Cameron and Close all scored 4.
I think Oscar Allen 4 and Waterman 4 for the Weagles.
Too good.
Yeah.
This was a great game between GWS and Hawthorn. Again, at a pretty packed out Norwood Oval. Shout out to the Sandful. The Giants getting the job done, I think, by 2 points, 77-75.
Yep.
Back and forth one. 2 of the teams not expected to do that well in the league this year, but it's always good to see, some of your weaker sides putting in a performance like this, and the Giants coming away really with a come from behind victory.
Yeah, and Toby Green, good. 3 goals, 2 behinds, 24 disposals, 4 marks, 4 tackles. So he did it all for him by the looks of it. Hogan got 2 goals as well.
2 goals, 4. He sprayed a couple from straight in front.
Yeah, the Giants were 17 behind, so maybe let a few go, unfortunately, in this one.
Into top of the table clash. St Kilda getting their first loss at the hands of Collingwood, 70-64. This one went down to the wire. This was when I arrived at the Casa del Monks and caught the sort of back end of the fourth quarter in this one. Good little finish there, and Collingwood gives St Kilda their first loss, which makes that top 4 pretty interesting. Boys, could Nick Dacos win the Brownlow? He's 19. He had 42. He's kind of fucking hot as well. I don't know if you get extra votes for that.
Gets you extra points.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Well, Paddy Cripps won it last year, so yes.
His brother had 30 in this as well, so
72. 72 for Dacos.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. Can we get some Brownlow odds? I'd love to see where he's at.
Do that.
Because it may be Clary than him. The last time I checked, and for a 19-year-old to be putting up those kind of numbers, it's crazy.
Yeah.
He's 19. I hope he's 19 and not 20.
We'll see what his birthday was.
I'm confident.
Hill got 3 goals for the top goal scorer in this one.
Nick Dacos down here, bottom right. Good listening. He's 20. He's 20. He's been 20 for a few months.
Yeah.
That still counts, right?
Yeah, 19, 20.
What's his brother? Is his brother 19? Maybe you're confusing.
No, because Josh is older. They're not twins.
There you go. I thought he might have been younger.
His favourite.
His favourite, yes.
His favourite?
Dacos' favourite, $5.
Run for the top 5.
Yeah, Clayton Oliver's 7. I got the Bont at 9, and then Lockie Neal's out at 12s with Paddy Cripps.
Imagine
Top
if he wins
5
it
there.
at the tender age of 19 plus 1.
Is that AFL?
That'll wrap us up. We already alluded to it, but a massive Anzac Day upcoming, and first versus fourth in Saints and Blues. Bring on round 6.
And confirming my chat from before, no undefeated teams left in these 2 Australian comps, and the Tigers the only team without a win.
Yeah, Tigers the biggest shit show.
Yeah.
Not sure about Super Rugby, but
and who watches that? Well, I don't think
some people must.
The Australian teams I don't think have played the Kiwis yet, so I expect them to get hammered when they start that leg of their season. But a team that hasn't won a game, the Delhi Capitals. Should we talk some IPL?
Some cracking games actually in the Indian Premier League this week, and really kind of an expose of why it's head and shoulders better than any other league. Getting around in terms of T20 cricket, The week started off with Lucknow getting a 1-wicket win in a pretty insane game against Royal Challengers Bangalore. RCB went out and made 212 for 2 in the first innings. Faf did a bit, 79 not. Kohli and Maxi also chipping in pretty handedly. And then Lucknow go out and get the win 9 wickets down. They were in all sorts. They were like 4 for fuck all, I think is the scientific term. And then Big Puppy Stoyne, Big Stoyne, 65 off 30. And then Nicholas Puran, who honestly I think has made maybe more money in the IPL than what his performances had warranted so far. When you go out and make 62 off 19 deliveries, striking at 326, you probably probably deserve a bit of that bag that you earned. There was a strange man-cat attempt in this one from Harshal Patel. The man-cat for mine, it has no place. I don't like it. It makes me feel icky, yes.
I think I saw this one, and the guy was still he was still grounded, like he hadn't left the crease. So there's been a few of those in the IPL, and the guys are just like, what are you doing? Like it's it's
great.
Yeah, I feel so as well. It's not like to compare it to baseball, like trying to steal a base or anything. Like
that's in build. You've still got to, you got to be fast. Someone's got to, turn around. The pitcher's got to whip it around to second base and catch it with a bit of skill.
Yeah, there's some.
The man cat's just gross.
Yeah, I agree. It's just gross.
Or the non-striker run out to not disrespect the man cat family, as per some bullshit article that we spoke about a few weeks ago. Mumbai Indians defeat our Delhi Capitals, or should I say our Mumbai Indians defeat those stinky Delhi Capitals by 6 wickets. Delhi go out and made 172. The Bison, Mitch Marsh, got left out in this one. David Warner made runs again, but is he making them too slow? That's the question.
And there's been a lot of stories, a lot of news about that he's had pressure put on him. Like the teams, pulled him aside and said, hey, we got to up the strike rate a bit and get out there and compete, because they're just not scoring enough runs. As a comparison, like his partner Patel out there, 54 off 25, like that's I think actually they quoted talked to Patel about it a bunch, and he was it's like, yes, we're working on it. We've talked to Davey, like we're trying to win a game here. We know that David up the top needs to score runs quicker. But I think he's kind of covering for the fact that Bison's been dismal.
Yeah.
Which I think's the big issue, really. Has he scored double digits yet? I
don't think so.
I don't think so. And he was omitted in this game. But the game he played last night,
You got a quacker.
Yeah. So that's the concern. I think that's the bigger issue with DC at the moment.
The Dorf, Jason Berendorf, pretty good. Canberra boy, 3 for 23 in this one. Rohit Sharma anchored Mumbai in this one. They won pretty easily. Shout out to you, Richo8181 in the comments. Thank you for the subby. Match 17, the Rajasthan Royals get a 3-run win against CSK. Josh Butler's pretty good at cricket. Nothing new.
Yeah. Shocked, no.
Match 18, Gujarat continue their good form. They get the win against Punjab Kings. Another game that went down to the wire. This one decided on the second last ball, penultimate ball. Matt Short, good to see him getting a gig in the IPL. He had 36 in this one. And Shubman Gill continues his good run of form with 67. Sunrisers Hyderabad beat KKR by 23 runs.
This is the big one.
Yeah, wild. 4 for 228 in 20 overs off the back of a Harry Brook 100. He's pretty good at cricket. We've alluded to that multiple times. And, he goes out and gets his first IPL ton. KKR, to their credit, chased pretty hard, making 205 themselves off the back of Nitish Rana, 75.
Yeah, well, and that's great for Harry Brook. He had a lot of criticism over the last weeks. We talked about it. He didn't feature, I think, in the top 20-odd batsmen. I think he'll be in that list now. He's not in the 10 at the moment. I can see there, Jimmy.
Just trying to see over your laptop to make the screen scroll down.
Yeah,
he's top 20, yeah.
There he is.
Akshay Patel in there.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Yep. 129, so getting most of those runs in this. So he's starting his tournament as what I feel like. So let's hope Harry can have a dominant period for here to finish out the IPL. And then played terribly for England.
I was going to say, there's a caveat on that.
Yeah, I was caveat I wanted to do well.
Use it for your good form now.
Yeah, that's right. Don't score as many runs as you'd like for Punjab Kings. And then when the Ashes come around, politely fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. Play
Just
terrible.
forget how to play cricket.
RCB beat our former team in the Delhi Capitals by 23 runs. Virat, back-to-back 50s for him. Caught up Yadav, not too bad with the ball. Spoke about the Bison. He's not
really struggling.
Yeah, not in a good run of form, which is such a shame because over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years, essentially the best striker of the ball out of the Australian cricketers.
Yeah.
So definitely has a talent, just going through a bit of a patch at the moment.
It's odd because his IPL last year was also average. So, there's some of the chat out about is he struggling in the Indian conditions. But then they played that series against India and he was dominant.
He was sick, yeah.
So I don't think it's an India or conditions problem at the moment. Maybe it's just a
form thing.
Yeah, it's just a form thing. He's just in a bit of a slump now. Maybe a bit more pressure on him and his role as, one of the internationals, one of the
big
faces.
money. Yeah.
Big money, for the Capitals. He just doesn't have the confidence he did playing in a stacked Australian side as a comparison. He's asked to do a really important job here for the Delhi Capitals and it can't really deliver on it. And they are struggling, having, of course, as we've mentioned several times, not winning a match so far.
No idea who this guy is, but pretty handy figures. 3 for 20 off 4 overs for Vijay Kumar Vishak from the Mumbai Indians there. The last game that happened this week before airing of the pod, Punjab get a win against Lucknow Super Giants by 2 wickets. KL Rahul, 74 off 56. Sam Curran, the highest paid player in the IPL, 3 for 31, earning a bit of that in this one. Mm-hmm. And I like, a few fun names, get around in cricket.
Yes,
we like to talk about, Bumrahs and Dick Hawks and
the hard dicks
and the rest of it. But Zimbabwean cricketer, Sikandar Raza, he's a bit of a sickand.
Yeah.
There's something there. Anyways, aside from terrible jokes, pretty good, handy cricketer, made 57 or 41, and good to see a Zimbabwean out there making some runs on the big stage.
So we've got Sekadaman still leading the runs.
With 233, Warner 228,
Virat with game ahead of the others.
214, Butler 204, Faf and Ruturaj Gaikwad rounding out those top sticks.
What we haven't probably seen recently for RCB is Kohli and Faf both firing at the same time, and I think Maxwell's actually been playing really well too. So, which is concerning for everyone else. When those three are on it and firing, they are going to be very, very hard to beat.
But they've had those three for years.
But I think they've had struggles where one's doing well and the other two aren't doing so well, and kind of that up and down. This year, it seems like all three of them are playing really well. And that's what I'm saying. You've got two there in the top 5. Maxi, I think, chipping in where he needs to and is playing well. That's what you want. That's what you can see the side RCB being very good and very dominant. What's the table look like?
It's pretty open.
Well, having said that, they're 7th at the moment. So.
Well, Rajasthan Royals currently up there with Lucknow, Gujarat and Punjab. Rajasthan and Gujarat having a game in hand, but it's pretty tight. Delhi 0-5. They're fucked essentially.
Yeah. How many matches did they play again?
14. I think it's 14.
Yeah. Even if they won 11, what are they? They got 9 left. No, they're fucked.
Pretty bit of trouble. Yeah. Mark Wood, after having that 5 for 14 in the opening game for Lucknow, is the pick of the bowlers. 11 poles at an average of 11.8. He's going pretty good, as are the perennials in Yuzi Chahal, Rashid Khan, Ravi Bishnoi, and we forgot him in our favourite names before, Arshdeep Singh.
How have the Mumbai Indians only played 3 games?
Yeah, scheduling thing, I think. So Mumbai have a game or 2 in hand, depending on the team.
Just got down a little bit, Jimmy.
A lot of Aussies as well
No,
playing for Mumbai.
Yeah, our new team, they just haven't played that much. No, it's all right. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Adam Wegner, nice to have you. A Yorkie.
Yes.
I think that was a bit scoush. I don't know. I actually don't know. There's a little bit of other cricket going on. Pakistan is playing New Zealand in Pakistan in T20s. Baba Azam.
Good at T20?
Yeah, really good. And Harris Ralph also pretty good. And Sri Lanka and Ireland going at it in Gaul, one of the most picturesque grounds in the world. Add it to your bucket list. Be interesting to see how the Irish go. Obviously, Sri Lanka will be heavy favourites in that one.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Wow. Sri Lanka heavy favourites.
At home against Ireland.
Yeah. I know.
With arguably their best bowler playing in the IPL.
Yes.
Josh Little. All right. That rolls us into maybe the most exciting thing of the week.
Curry sets, fires, puts it up, bang!
The NBA, the playoffs are set, but let's first take a look back at the play-ins for the week. In the East, it was Miami getting done by Atlanta in the first play-in in Miami. So the Hawks go through as the 7th seed. The elimination play-in was Chicago, sending Toronto home in their own arena. So the Raptors go home. And then the last spot for the Eastern playoffs was up to Miami to defend their home court. They did so, 102-91 winners. You boys know, like I'm sure you follow it a little bit, the old cryptos and FTX and all that shit. Does FTX Arena have a new name? Because essentially for mine, that's like calling something like it's not really politically correct, I suppose.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Yeah, Archbishop Stadium or something like that. So.
Archbishop. Cardinal George Pell Stadium.
I was going to keep it finance or business related. Enron.
Yeah, Enron. That's probably better.
Yes. And if you want an FTX update, I think they're still doing all the legal stuff. There's rumors they've got all the money and they might actually relaunch FTX. So FTT, their token pumped during the week. Wouldn't advise going anywhere near that currently.
No.
But I think they may have already paid for the licensing as well. Hence why all this cash fucking disappeared from FTX to begin with. Because they was like, yeah, we'll give you 500 mil, here's the money, and then they've signed it. So I think the money's already in the bank, so they're happy to run with that name. But yeah, whether you want to be called FTX for the foreseeable future, I don't know. It's interesting.
Have you seen that Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yes. Yeah.
There couldn't be a bigger nerd like that's had his name on a basketball arena. Like in his seriously, I'm glad that went under.
Yeah, there's a few celebs being caught up in this bit. I think Shaq, because he was one of the spokesmen for
Tom Brady,
FTX.
wasn't it?
Yeah, Tom Brady as well. Like a few guys, wanting to be involved in the. It's not a lawsuit, but I guess the court case involved with sorting out the massive fraud that was FTX and what role they play as spokesmen for it. But to answer your question, I think they'll probably leave it for the foreseeable future. Oh no, Jimmy's fastest research man on the right.
Yep. Following the bankruptcy in November 2022, the deal was terminated effective January. It was temporarily named the Miami-Dade.
Miami-Dade, it's like their county or something.
Yeah.
Miami-Dade Police.
Yeah, there you go. Right there. Arena, and then they've signed a 17-year naming right agreement. 17-year with, God, this is going to be another name I can't say. Casilla Center.
What do they do?
Software IT company in Miami based. Yeah.
Which means crypto.
17 years.
Yeah.
Quite possibly. So, yeah.
There you go.
I think it's enough stadium chat.
Stadium chat.
But Miami did what they needed to do. It was interesting that Miami Hawks game with Atlanta. Ice Young was very much, it was like, hey, after their comments that, hey, they want to defend their home turf and they want to go straight into the playoff, maintain the 7th seed. He really took it on himself, like, hey, well, let's go out there and beat these guys. And they did that, forced Jimmy Buckets to go the hard way. But they did the job against the Bulls to move on.
Jumping over to the West, the Lakers had a bit of a scare in their playing game against the Wolves. It did go to OT, but then they get the job done. The huge talking point in this one was Rudy Gobert punching teammate Kyle Anderson during a timeout. Not a lot in it, but it was a punch.
Mm-hmm. A strike.
A strike?
Didn't it happen the week before because he
sat out of this game?
No, wasn't it?
No, I don't think it was in this game. I think it was the week before. But he sat out.
But yeah, possibly.
Well, when he says the week before, it might have been like 2 days before.
The game before.
The game before this
was
game.
the one that he missed this one.
He missed this one. He didn't
But
play.
he's going to be back as of tomorrow, I think. I'm pretty sure he's playing tomorrow.
Did he play against?
No, he did. So he missed 2, I think. Anyways, Gobert, who this is what they traded the Jazz for. Malik Beasley, Pat Beverly, 3 others. Don't even get named, poor fellas. 4 first rounders for Rudy Gobert, and he's dishing up that when your team really needs him. It's pretty dismal.
Yeah. We still don't know why the Wolves made this trade. So.
Well, they already had a dominant big in Karl Anthony Towns, and
unless they wanted to move him out of, say, a big man role. But I don't know. We talked about it. They're just too tall. So I don't see them doing anything too major in the playoffs.
Lakers go through. Got to talk about our boy Josh Giddey. Giddy up. OKC go to New Orleans and send them packing in front of their own fans. Josh Giddey putting up some insane numbers in this. I'll bring it up in this one.
I almost had a triple-double. He was 1 rebound short.
He was. 31 points, 10 assists, 9 boards for the young Aussie. The Thunder, they're going places. We'll get to it in just a second. The Pels, very, very disappointing considering the start of the season that they had.
Do you see Zion in the warm-ups?
No.
Dunking things like crazy. I think they kind of got to the point where Zion is healthy and it's just mentally he's got to be ready. Dealing with his own things, young player in the league, etc. But unfortunately, for the Pels, they didn't go deep enough, and he'll have to come back next season.
Going to the elimination play-in, Thunder do get sent packing against the T-Wolves, so the Wolves will go through as the 8th seed. Let's talk about this OKC team. Youngest team in the NBA, 23.1 years as an average. Here's the other youngest teams in the NBA. Houston Rockets, San Antonio Spurs, Orlando Magic. What's the difference? Thunder actually not too bad.
They can play ball.
Indeed. Chet Holmgren will be back next season. 2nd overall pick. Liz Frank, not a good injury to come back from, but he's sat out the whole year. They've got good draft picks incoming. A lot of people have got them, in the coming years being a real force. So it's going to be nice to see for Aussie fans of basketball, for Josh Giddey and Thunder fans in general.
That's it. I think the key for them is just to keep this group of players together now. They're seeing so much success at an early age. You want them to stay as that playing group. Kind of like a Celtics where they just play good basketball as a team. You'd hate for them to go to other teams and take on deals and stuff with elsewhere, I guess.
It's probably not going to happen. They're going to keep this core together for at least the foreseeable future because they're all on their rookie deals.
Which is interesting because they have all those draft picks, and I feel like they're not going to spend all those draft picks to get young fellas in, considering how young they are. I think they might use those picks to then trade hunt a veteran that's maybe thinking, this team's on the up and up and could potentially win it all. Maybe I'm the missing X factor. I was thinking about this during the week, and the kind of guy that I think of as like maybe Jimmy Buckets, that kind of type of player that could come in. Not that they need a Jimmy Buckers. It's just a
Wouldn't
guy.
hurt.
Yeah, it's a guy I thought of. So, yeah, that's the way I think this team may go now that they've got the three kind of really big name young fellas. Maybe they just need a big name veteran guy that's played 10 plus years in the league has lots of playoff experience that could maybe put them over. There was an interesting question here from Richo about the Australians, staying on that Josh Giddey theme with the Olympics coming up. Can we push past the bronze medal match? Can we get a silver or gold medal?
Well, there's the World Cup is this.
It was also the World Cup, yes.
I think it's soon. I'm just tracing this up.
Countdown, 130 days.
130 days
3 months?
till the FIBA
4 months.
World Cup in Philippines, Japan, and Indonesia. It's a great question. We've seen us, famously in the Olympics a couple of years ago, getting our first ever medal. Hard to pick, I suppose. Like in terms of international basketball and who actually ends up playing, that's maybe what makes it difficult, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that was kind of my point was potentially we could make a gold medal match if every big name Australian kind of played it and did his part. But whether that happens, and as we've seen it hasn't, might make it difficult. I just don't see all those top end NBA players playing both the World Cup and the Olympics coming up for the lot of it. I'd love to see it. That would be excellent. Potentially high medals in both. There is definitely some talent in the Australian stocks now with a bunch of guys coming through.
I was trying to get some groups. I don't think the groups have been named as far as I can tell, but the teams have been confirmed. Kickoff for that is 25th of August. So
September.
we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that one.
When's the Olympics?
2024.
Yeah,
it'll be middle of the year.
Middle of next year.
Yeah, for the Olympics.
Okay. Yeah, that's not too bad.
Fuck, it just seems like the Olympics were, obviously Tokyo a year late because of the old C word.
Yes.
That's COVID for those that
Not the Australian one.
just following along at home. It'll be interesting to see what the Boomers can do.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. That said, Monksy, let's fucking talk about it.
Australia's always almost there or thereabouts.
Well, we got fourth 4 times,
times,
so we lost 4 bronze medal games. All right, we've got the Olympic top 4 up in recent memory. So since sort of Dream Team era, which I believe was 92, USA has won 7 out of 8 with Argentina getting it done in 2004. And Australia has perennially been in that bronze medal match, but only managed to win it in 2020, which played out obviously in 2021 in Tokyo.
And we played France, didn't we? And we went very close to beating them in that one.
Did we beat them in the group stage?
Maybe that was it. I feel like we played them really well, and then they went on and almost beat the Yanks.
So we're pot 1.
there.
Yeah. So yeah.
No, we wouldn't.
So we went undefeated. We went undefeated in the group stage.
Knockout.
And then I think you're right. I think we played.
No, we lost the States, and the States went through. There you go.
Yeah. Look at that score against Argentina.
She missed him.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Anyways, we've got some NBA playoffs to talk about.
Yeah. Well, switch. Well, yes, we got to cover off East and West.
The playoffs are set. Let's talk about the East. The 1 seed Bucks take on the 8th seed Heat. The Bucks are short favourites, and so they should be. Who can defend the Greek Freak? I think the short answer is no one. The Bucks are the oldest team in the NBA. So speaking of OKC being the youngest team, they are the oldest team. However, it's mostly role players and Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez, 35. Then you've got Wesley Matthews, Goran Dragic, and Jingles. Joe Ingles, 35. It would be lovely to see him finish with a championship ring.
Yeah. So they have one freak, a whole bunch of role guys, and Lopez, like you said, the big tall bodyguard, as you will.
the block man.
Yeah, and they finished one. So
I think it's window. I think the point is more window time. Not that these guys are integral to what the Bucks are doing, but obviously they're going to slow down in the coming years. Obviously, Milwaukee's success depends on the health of Giannis Antetokounmpo. And for mine, it's them and the Celtics and daylight. I don't think that's a hot take by any stretch of the imagination.
yeah, we've been talking about it for the better part of probably 3
9
months
months.
since
Well, probably 9 months.
since Christmas. They've definitely been well ahead. You know, it's whether they, as we keep saying, the 76ers can keep pace. But you know, they're going to have a very interesting series with the Nets, with the young Nets team coming up. But yeah, I think Bucks Heat's actually pretty fun because of where the Heat kind of finished last year, and that they also, struggled a lot of the start of this year without Jimmy Buckets, as mentioned before. So they are probably better than where the 8th seed is. But do I see them going to the Bucks' house and upsetting them at all? Probably not.
Nah, no chance. Monk's got the odds over there. The bookies tend to agree.
Yeah, the Bucks are favourites $1.08. The Heat are out at $8.75.
It's just about unbackable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cavs and Knicks, this series could be fun, although the Knicks getting an away win in the Cavs' house this morning, our time, definitely puts them in the driver's seat. Also, they went 3-1 in the regular season, so Knicks maybe upper hand in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, only just one.
It was a good game. It was fun to watch.
Nice.
There was that much noise there in Cleveland until about 80 seconds left in the game when the Knicks came back. And it was the Knicks were ahead the whole game, and then Spider and Mobley and Garland and the boys got up and about for the Cavs, and it was really just that last little few minutes where Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson sealed the deal for the Knicks.
Mm.
Do you see either of these teams really challenging in the others?
Like I said, for mine in the East, it's the Bucks and the Celtics. Stranger things have happened. You'd think if anyone can do it, it's the Sixers, who we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
In terms of putting a line through it, Nets, Hawks, Heat. I'm happy to put lines through them.
Yep.
And then it would take a lot. It would be highly surprising for the Cavs or the Knicks to come out as the Eastern Conference champions. But look, probably don't see it happening. But it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I don't think either of these teams challenge the others. And like we've been saying, I think it's 76ers were the only one maybe to do an upset over the other two.
76ers, they have had the wood over the Nets, swept them this year, regular season 4-0. Mikal Bridges is pretty much carrying the Nets since they dealt off KD and Kyrie.
Mm-hmm.
Again, much similar sort of chat to the Greek Freak. Can they contain Joel Embiid? Answer, probably no.
Yeah, the scoring leader for the year, and I think MVP favourites, though Jimmy won't be able to find a market for it.
That market started stripping last week, didn't it?
I think they also, I'm not sure when they announced it, but they finalised the options. So it's basically a B, Joker, or the Greek Freak. They're the potentials for the MVP this year.
It blows out so much until you get to Tatum.
Yeah, well, I think they've already confirmed that their voting is between those three.
Which means it's a Euro.
Yes. So Embiid would be his first, whereas it would be thirds for the other two.
Celtics and Hawks. Boston also swept the Hawks 3-0. They killed them with a 3-ball and got the win this morning. So already 1-0 up in that one. I think Marcus Smart reopened those stitches that he had in his hand. Don't know if it's going to be a long-term problem, but just a bit of news out of that. I think the Celtics get this done pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree.
They're $1.04.
Yeah, it's really where the young has some unbelievable magic and they go on a bit of a run, but I just don't think they're where they need to be at the moment for that.
I might quickly go for a wee. I'll get you to lead us into the West
Run through
here,
the West.
boys, with the Nugs taking on the Wolves.
Yep.
Just got to make sure you're back for our Kings chat.
Yeah. run.
Delay. Start talking history, geography, whatever other bullshit we talk about on this podcast sometimes.
Well, Nuggets and Avalanche both 5 years in a running make the playoffs at the Denver Broncos. Hashtag sad. So
They might do it this year.
yeah, well, let's hope bloody well.
Sure.
Nuggets will get the Wolves. There's the little bit of they went 2-2 in the regular season. Denver did smack them by 34 points in February. The Nuggets have so many question marks. The media is asking all the question marks about whether they can do it, whether they have guys, I guess, around the Joker, Jokic, to actually push them, far enough. Are they a legit number one? Which will be interesting. That's kind of where they'll be found out in the playoffs. I don't think it'll be the Wolves that will be the ones to challenge them. I think it'll be some of the others. But yeah. It's I think Nugs clearly favourites here. I think the other series though in this are more fun, are more interesting. It's we'll just run through them. Suns, Clippers, Kings, Golden State Warriors, and then Grizzly, Lakers as the three other series. Suns and Clippers. Suns, are they still undefeated with KD? I feel like that is the case. And the Clippers kind of been running in the form at the moment with Kawhi kind of playing much better. So that's a fun series which hasn't kicked off. They play their first game tomorrow. And then we had the Kings taking on Golden State, with the Kings getting a win, and I feel like that was at home. Yeah, Kings would have been the 3 seed, so it would have been home. So
Kings are at home,
126 to 123. I know Curry had a look to potentially draw this up going overtime, but missed it, which is very rare for him. Klay Thompson got 301 threes on the season. First time he's done that. Only he, Curry, and James Harden have done that, and Curry's done it 4 times over 300 threes, which is crazy.
That's wild.
But then you got the young fella, Keenan, on the other side, who pushed over 200 as a rookie, so you can see the way where the game's going.
Yeah, that's it.
But yes, the Kings get a win. Beam me up, Scotty. Shine the beam. In this one to get one ahead and then go to Golden State in a couple of days.
That's it. I mean, I suppose the big question on everyone's lips is how deep can the Kings go? Obviously, being one up in this series puts a front foot forward.
They're such a fun team.
But
Being 3. It's interesting. I think all the California teams made it to the playoffs this year.
Clippers, Lakers, Kings. That's it, isn't it?
Golden State.
Hey, Golden State, yeah. Yeah, fun.
Anything else on Kings, Peppy?
Yes, shine the beam. You're looking at me funny. It's light the beam. I said shine the beam in my group chat this morning for NBA and got absolutely shredded. Let's light that beam.
Yeah,
Light the beam.
Light the beam.
Not shine. Shine the beam. It's nice to shine, isn't it? So, in terms of can they actually go far? Look, I still don't think they will, but the atmosphere was electric there in Sacramento.
So what we were saying was on the West, Nugs probably clear one, but they also have so many question marks about are they a team or were they just so dependent on the Joker?
Yes, they are.
Then the other 3 series, I don't think the Wolves are going to be that test. I think one of the other teams will be. Mm-hmm. Those 3 there are a lot more fun series. I think they're a lot closer than it is, say, in the East. And mainly because you got Golden State, Lakers, and Clippers, who all have big name players on their squads. They can definitely win some games. So I'm interested to see the results out of these 3 and who actually comes through, because I think a lot of, and we're now talking about Grizzlies and Lakers. The Lakers and Golden State are still good quality squads and could potentially push them push it further into the playoffs. Like these could be long playoff series, maybe grindy series, maybe not. Whereas the other ones might be 4-0s, the sweeps. These ones might be some hard fought, game sixes kind of thing.
The Suns, for mine, they're the sleeping giant in the West. I think the Valley, with the addition of KD, if KD, Book, CP3 are all firing, I think they could do a bit of damage.
That's it. Like just looking at the road for the Kings, if they were to make it past the Warriors, Lakers in finals, you can't count them out.
Which leads us into the Grizz and the Lakers. If you had those odds there, the Lakers, they're not favourites, but it's not far off, are they?
Where are we?
$2.20 versus $1.70.
Yeah, that's it.
And no Steven Adams for the Grizz, so no big man to negate AD.
Yeah. It's going to be a very big challenge for them. So you could see the Lakers sneaking past.
Fucking oath. If there's any sort of big upset, it's not that it is a big upset according to the bookies, but in terms of a 7 doing a 2, could happen there.
Yeah. No, that's it.
The other big news in the NBA this week was the Mavs get a $750,000 fine
Slap on the wrist
for tanking. Is that our thoughts?
Yeah,
Chump change? Slap on the
Mark
wrist?
Cuban's their owner. He's multi-billionaire, so he's got all the money.
Shit's $750,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So
I ate pieces of shit like you for breakfast, says Shooter McGavin / Mark Cuban.
And the wording was like it was detrimental to the NBA or something like that was the quote. But yeah, it's not a lot of money. I thought if anything, maybe if they really wanted to punish them, it would be picks. But take second round or something like that. But
just take what they were trying to really get.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And I guess I haven't really looked into it too much, but it's always going to be very speculative in terms of how do you actually find the evidence that someone was tanking. Obviously, benching all your starters is pretty bad.
That's proof in the pudding, surely.
I don't know. So it's interesting. You'd think that they would have, if not the picks that they were trying to save, you'd take some picks off them, but.
It just really depended if they wanted to go that far and punish him, but the league's kind of nah, we'll find them.
It's like a once-off thing. Is like as long as it doesn't start happening every year, and you start seeing all these players or teams, starting to tank for that, 10th spot or whatever. Then,
I wonder if that tactic from the Mavs higher ups is going to have a detrimental effect on Luka and where he sees himself and that franchise moving forward.
I assume he's got a big contract and he's not going to be off contract for quite a while. So,
you spin it the way they're obviously trying to make sure they have the best possible chance to pick someone up in the draft to support Luka. So,
you could spin it that way.
That I'm sure that would probably be the way they're spinning it to Luka, but obviously, as a professional athlete, the last thing you want to be doing is throwing a game.
Yeah, agree. So looking at the playoffs, I think East we're saying Bucks Celtics will probably make it all the way through. On the West, I'm feeling maybe Nugs go through to fight, go against the Suns. I think Suns probably win that.
Yeah, I think so.
And then
the Kings, that bottom
that's the fun
is
side.
fun. Kings, Warriors, and Grizz Lakers.
I'm going to go Kings,
Shine the beam.
Lakers go through, and then maybe Kings go through and then lose to the Suns.
Light, shine. Shine light.
Maybe Suns, Bucks final.
Time will tell. It's a fun time in the NBA, isn't it? Oh, we're going to go over to the East. Bucks, Celtics, easy.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if either of those two get done. And then I think 76ers would be too good for the Nets. Probably the only sort of really fun, interesting series over there in the East is the Cavs and the Knicks. And the Knicks, as we just spoke about, getting that big away win in Cleveland this morning.
I know we've talked about a lot in the NFL. Has there been any recent back-to-back championships? Like, could you see the Celtics going all the way again?
Patriots would be the only ones.
Yeah, in the NFL, I don't think there's been much at all.
Because it was Patriots back
It's more in the NBA, wasn't it?
Back to Denver.
If you go, bring it up, monks. The Warriors, I think, did it in those years where
I'll sort the
where it was Warriors versus LeBron for 4 finals in a row. Before then, I don't think the Spurs did it.
The Heat do it?
No, I don't think they went back to back. I think in recent memory, I think it's only the Dubs. I think it's only the Warriors.
Yeah. 17, 18.
So Warriors last year.
Actually, 7.
Warriors last year, Bucks, Lakers, Raptors. So different winners over the last 4. And then Warriors, Cavs, Warriors. And that was those 4 finals in a row where it was Steph and Co versus LeBron.
That's right.
Then Spurs. Then the Heat did do it. Heat in 12 and 13. Heat. Mavs. And then Lakers in 9-10. So there's a fair few back-to-backs, really, in recent memory.
To confirm for the NFL, Patriots did it in 04-05, and then I was right with Denver at 98 and 99. They were the 2, say, in the last 30-odd years. And then you go back to Dallas, early 90s, and then to the Niners, of course, gone for their repeat in 89, 90. It's only 4 in the last 30 years. 20, 30 years.
It's rare, regardless, isn't it?
It is. Well, yeah, Golden State Warriors have uphill battle, I suppose, to get there.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Shine/light the beam.
Fire up the beam.
Fire me up, Scotty. Right,
Soccer time?
let's do it. Match day 31, and there was a few instant classics, boys. The Villains getting a big win at home against Newcastle, which means they jump up to 6th. Champions League, probably not going to happen, but Europa definitely in contention. Ollie Watkins, who has the most score involvements out of any player since the World Cup? Considering I just said Ollie Watkins. Probably him. He's got 12 Premier League goals,
not the Viking?
5 assists total.
He doesn't need assists.
He probably just doesn't get any assists. That's exactly where Haaland misses out. But Villa definitely playing some pretty good football. And Newcastle, a little bit of a hiccup. Obviously, 1 and 2 is pretty much sorted. But then 3, 4, 5 down into 6 is still alive. Boys, we have to talk about it. We spoke about it at the top of the show. It was the tagline, can Chelsea get relegated? They lose at home, 2-1 to Brighton. And the interesting thing about this, normally in soccer, when you lose to a team that you probably shouldn't lose to, it's look, they got lucky. We dominated. They scored against the run of play, but none of that happened. Brighton had 26 shots, 57% of the ball. Julio and Kisco scored an absolute rocket. They're keeping their European aspirations alive.
Yeah, well, they're 7th, so they are definitely a lot higher than Chelsea, currently 11th. To answer your question, will they get relegated?
It's not will, it's more can.
They're probably within shooting distance if they lose a lot of the games, but I think you're probably expecting the bottom guys to win more than they potentially are. So I think they're probably going to be safe, and I feel like maybe it's now from... I was going to say West Ham down, but then the others are just as close.
I don't think they get relegated. I think that's pure
He's got it there, Jimmy.
hyperbole from us in the intro. They're 12 points clear of the drop zone as it stands.
Yeah, I think they're far enough.
But
maybe Crystal Palace is where I draw the line at the moment.
But
potentials.
And there's always a but. 7 games to go at United, Brentford, at Arsenal, at Bournemouth, Forest at home, at City, and Newcastle. So out of those 7 games, they play 5 teams that are looking pretty handy.
Well, not Forest and Bournemouth are below them, so that's probably lose those games. Then I'd be starting to get worried.
Indeed,
if they're losing all the other ones, that's their concern.
How about?
I don't think the teams that got relegated last year scored more than 30, though. I feel like they were pretty low.
So you think attacking wise they're going okay? Their points difference is pretty impressive. They're only neg 3 scored 30, conceded 33, and you look at that defence, it's on par with some of those top teams. But you look at their squad, the fact that they're averaging less than a goal a game is highly concerning.
So Burnley was the highest that got relegated last year, and they had 39 points. So if you go by that rough guide, you can probably say that maybe even Crystal Palace potentially safe, and the Wanderers in the firing line here.
Like I said at the top of the show, probably not, but it's fun to think about, isn't it? A team that is in real strife of getting relegated is the Toffees. Everton getting done 3-1 by Fulham at home at Goodison Park. They're 17th, and Forest does have a game in hand. It is at United tonight. But what did we come up with? It's 70-something years since the Toffees have been in the second flight. Could happen.
Could very well happen.
A team that probably is going down is Southampton. They lost at home to Crystal Palace today. 3 straight wins for Roy Hodgson at Palace. Saints, bottom of the table, probably look like they're going down. Wolverhampton getting an important win at home against Brentford, 2-0. What about a bit of a blast from the past? Diego Costa, boys. 34-year-old, his first goal for Wolves. I think 18 appearances off the bench took him to take his first golazzo. And his first Premier League goal since 2017 with Chelsea, had 52 goals in 89 appearances with the team that probably doesn't get relegated this year. But it's nice to see Diego Costa back out there. You know what else is nice to see? Tottenham getting done at home by Bournemouth. Absolutely.
That really hurts the Spurs.
This is an important loss because if you scroll back up there and you look at where these teams are at, the whole top 4 has a game in hand from Spurs, and United has 2. Yeah. So provided United goes out and maybe gets a win against Not Forest at home tonight, which you'd think would happen, that might be Champions League football done for Spurs.
Yep. Yeah. Still 7 games ago. Caveat. 6, 7 for still 7 for
7 for 7.
But it's probably getting pretty close to it. And I don't think anyone else, probably, Villa's probably a distant chance now. It's kind of shaping up, solidifying itself there at the top.
Did you see the finishes? It was an absolute dagger to the heart of Spurs fans as well. Old Dango Utara getting the 95th minute winner after they had a late equaliser themselves. The Cherries have really lifted themselves out of the danger zone. They've won 3 from their last 4. Pretty hard to see them bowing out as it stands. And then the last game from overnight, City 3-1 winners at home against Leicester. John Stones, you don't see a centre-back load up on the left too often and put it in the top bin. But Erling Haaland was spoken even about him all season. Has 32 now on the season, which ties the 38-game record with Mo Salah. And
7 games ago.
And he's two behind the all-time Premier League record, which you must consider was 42 game seasons, and that was Alan Shearer and Andy Cole back in the early 90s. It's his for the taking, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely, and they are still hot on Arsenal's heels. I believe Arsenal probably beat West Ham tonight. But, that's a game ahead. So they're still 3 points behind. They're still in touch. Those 2 are so clear. When do they play each other? I think we looked this up. And
it's a couple.
It's a couple of weeks away.
It's a couple of weeks, and it's as close to a Premier League final as you can get.
It's right there.
How good's that? So just after Anzac Day, I wouldn't mind seeing a time. It's gonna be middle of the night.
It'll be a Thursday for us, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Thursday,
I think it's mid.
Thursday
I think it's midweek, and middle of the night.
There you go.
Wednesday, Thursday. That's watchable. That's watchable. Thursday, 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Thursday, 5 a.m. That's pretty much season on the line at the Etihad. City take on Arsenal.
Do you think Gunners choke? That's Richo's question.
Well,
It'd be a very Gunners thing to do.
they've kind of slowly been doing it as it is. City, I think, according to the bookies, are already the favourites.
Ooh, there you go.
And they're favourites to win.
Can you just scroll across, Jimmy?
They're favourites to win the league and the Champions League. So,
Not let me.
as a United fan, I really hope that
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
both of those don't eventuate.
Yeah, the draw really hurts Arsenal.
It was a big draw last week, wasn't it? But I think essentially a lot of it comes down to that big game. So pencil that in your calendars, boys and girls, if you are listening. Thursday, 5 a.m, the 26th of April, in Arsenal versus City.
Yep, I agree.
Shout out to our boy Harry Suter. He's from Scotland, but he's a Socceroo. He's a Socceroo. I bleed green and gold. Harry Suter, his header set up the Ian Archer consolation against his old team. As aforementioned, Hammers take on Gunners. Any slip up from Arsenal would be really detrimental to the way that their season pans
Shouldn't lose
out.
the Hammers.
With City having a game in hand and United. I think I said it was at home. They're down in the Midlands against Forest in Nottingham. Big game for them. Leeds take on Liverpool the day after. Pretty brief final round tonight. Let's get into it. Monks, if you wouldn't mind getting up the UFC card from today. Pretty handy card this was for a freebie.
For a freebie, yeah.
Yeah.
Few names, but it ended up being a lot of good results, I think was the main thing out of it.
Tends to be whenever Max Holloway fights, you can expect a war, you can expect 5 rounds, you can expect a lot of strikes exchanged, and that's what happened.
Yes. Yeah, and so if I guess we're going to start from top, we'll start with Holloway. It was an interesting fight with Holloway having to kind of back up a little bit more with Allen kind of pushing the pressure. Allen really hit him with a lot of good left hooks. But Holloway just always seemed to have one or two more in him, which just kept putting more damage on Allen, kept winning all the rounds. Went past 3,000 significant strikes in the UFC, and the third guy to have 7 hours in the
cage,
octagon.
yeah.
So with RDR, and I forgot who the other one was. So it kind of, again, followed a very much a Max Holloway script, goes 5 rounds, lots of significant strikes, almost 200 in total he landed on Allen. Allen was pretty game. He did win the first round, and then maybe debatable on I don't think it was the second, I think it might have been the third. But either way, Holloway on 2 judges' scorecards got 4 rounds in total for the win in this one, and I think is probably 2 in the division. I think it was 2, maybe even moves up to 1. It's interesting for him because Volk's got the Rodriguez fight. Rodriguez has actually lost to Holloway. And if Volk wins again, do you do the trilogy? Is it a trilogy now?
It's 4. It'll be 4.
4 against Holloway. So yeah, it's he's very much the big gatekeeper at the top of this division. And Allen, coming up, he was 4th on a 10-fight winning streak, but it was a big step up for him. Was very competitive, but Holloway being Holloway is just showing that Volk is really the only guy to beat him recently.
Yeah, it seems in the featherweight division that it's 1A Volk and 1B Max Holloway. A lot of people kind of speculated that Arnold Allen might go out there given that long win streak, which included names like Calvin Cater, Dan Hooker and the like. He hadn't lost any fight since 2014. He was undefeated in the UFC up until that point.
So,
and it's just a real testament to the class and the cardio and the striking ability of Max Holloway.
yeah, just showed how the difference in how impressive he still is. So gets the win, keeps his name very much in that conversation for another title fight. Yeah, and if Volk isn't going to disappear and fight any lightweights soon, then he's probably next. He'd probably get the winner of that upcoming fight in a couple of months.
There's another featherweight, sort of not really the co-main, but the lead up into it. The old boy Edson Barbosa can still get it done. Did you see this?
A very classic kind of knockout knee from Barbosa, and definition of gatekeeper, the guy that just sits in rank 14, 15, and you have to go through him if you want to get a ranking. He either is losing to the big name guys that are coming up through the division, or he blocks those guys coming in and sends them back. So he's fought the who's who of the division and has been around for a very, very long time. But now with the win, I don't think he's going to disappear anytime soon.
For those that haven't seen it, an all-time knockout. He absolutely ate a right hook at the same time as lifting his knee, and poor old Billy Quarantillo, he got sent to the Shadow Realm with this one. Yeah,
Billy tried a level change with a punch coming in, and Barbosa saw the takedown coming and kneed him in the head.
37 years of age. He still looks like he's got a bit of that dog in him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just he was ranked 14. He'd probably bump up a little bit, but like I said, he's there stuck as that gatekeeper veteran now, and whether he wants to have some fun fights for the rest of his career.
There was a couple of fun light heavyweights. Azamat Mirzakhanov getting the win, and old boy, I don't think he's that old. He's early 30s. Ion Kuteleba, the Moldavian. Actually, he's 29. Rejoining the winners list with a win against Tanner Bosa after a 3-fight losing streak. Pedro Munoz getting the job done against highly touted Chris Gutierrez.
Yeah, and he got knocked down in the first round as well and came back to win a decision. So, another guy kind of floating there in the middle of the bantamweight division. So, yeah.
And then maybe the big talking point from the start of the main card, Rafa Garcia defeating Clay Guida. So Clay Guida, 41 years of age. How many fights did we say he had? 61 or something?
61. The UFC had miscounted his record. They had it as 38 and 20. But, they've forgotten the last few. It's 38 and 23 now.
61 fights.
61's in the UFC. Well, 61 in total. Can you scroll down? When did he start in the UFC? I think I said 06.
We're at UFC 94, UFC 74, UFC 72,
64. So
UFC 64.
So when the UFC bought WEC, he came across with that.
In sort of 2006.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a long time to be fighting, and there's a lot of fights in there. What was his record there?
21-6.
21-6. So what's that, Pepe? Quick math. 34 fights? 34 fights in the UFC?
So 27 less 63.
Oh, no, I did 61. Sorry.
61.
I had 61 in my head, so 63 minus 27 is
36. 37, I think.
All right. Quick math.
We don't do quick math on this podcast. It's fucking 10 o'clock. Jesus. It's going to be interesting. I don't think any formal leaving of the gloves in the octagon, but that may be
pretty close.
May be the last time that we see Clay Guida. Yeah, see what you got there, Monks. If there's retirement on the horizon, you'd think so. One of the great brawlers, really, in UFC history.
Well, which is crazy to think that he had 35 plus a couple fights in the UFC for a brawler. Like, he's been in some absolute wars. Fought the who's who of the division all the way to the top of the division. He's a very fun fighter to watch. Unfortunately, his recent form is loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. So, it's kind of he's just stuck at the moment.
A little bit of a fun talking point there. Thank you, Richo, in the chat. What's the code? WWE and UFC, the parent company? Something going along?
Yeah, UFC is owned by Endeavor. They've bought the majority share from Vince for the McMahons. So 51%. I think McMahon's still got 49%. And they're going to create a new company which goes over the top of them. So some variant of Endeavor, essentially. So it's fun. And then, they had WrestleMania, which I think was like a 3-day event a week ago. And, we got it free televised down here. So I did tune into a little bit of that. A little bit of Logan Paul off the top rope going through KSI in a Prime bottle. So those boys know how to promote their shit. So the other fun thing I wanted to cover out of this UFC fight was Zach Cummins and Ed Herman both retired together. Which I think's first. I can't say I've ever seen that happen where two blokes retire at the same time. But, they both took their gloves off. Both, a bit of an emotional moment. I had a hug knowing that was the last time that each graced the cage and against each other. It was a bit of a nice moment there in the undercard.
Yeah. On retirement, Clay Guida did take his gloves off at the end of the match.
He did.
But it was as a trick. All he wanted to do was say happy birthday to his mum. And he wanted to trade gloves with Garcia for a good fight.
Clay, April Fool's Guida.
That's it. Apparently Dana wasn't too happy about it.
Yeah. Zach Cummings, 38 years of age, confirmed him and Ed Herman, 42 years of age, hanging up the gloves.
Well, watching the fight before, it seemed like they were just... It was like a really hard fight, just back and forth.
Yeah, teeing off.
Heaps of knockdowns and stuff.
Yeah.
So one hell of a last fight for both of them.
Yep. Oh, yeah, it was a fun fight there in the light heavyweight division. So we've finished with some YouTube boxing. It was announced during the week that Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz has been confirmed to 185, I think was the weight, which is big for Nate, traditionally fighting at 170. But he's also a very tall man. I think was Jake 6 foot or was he 6'2"? Maybe they're both 6'2". Because I know Nate's 6'2". Very lanky Nate Diaz, and of course has a history of boxing prowess. It's probably a bit hard to slap a bloke in boxing gloves, but I think this is a fun fight. It's of course been there. Some chat about Nate Diaz wanting to, have this fight and then go back and win his belts. So maybe he returns back to the UFC. There's some, conversation about that. But he's booked against Jake Paul in August. Jake Paul goes back to fighting semi-retired MMA fighters. And then to keep that storyline going, KSI has his fight on May the 13th against an actual boxer, Joe Fournier, I think so you say his name. So that's coming up as well. Win there. They keep that going. I think it's interesting the timing of August for this Jake Paul fight. I thought maybe it'd be sooner so that if both win, then they do the KSI fight at the end of the year. But since it's August, probably makes, if they both win again, maybe KSI fights again this year, and then they're targeting early next year for their hopefully eventual fact that they can fight each other, and then maybe the UFC, the YouTube boxing will slow down a little bit as the two prominent names on either side of it, America and Europe, essentially pushing it forward. But that's YouTube boxing.
Monks, anything in the F1?
No, not really. We've been on a bit of a break since the Australian GP. We've got the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku coming up at the end of this month. A few weeks away. No real news last couple of weeks on anything too big.
There was a few comments. George caught up with another joker in Djokovic. Yes, the tennis player. And they were talking about, what do you like? Joker essentially asked him, what are you guys doing at the moment? He's like, well, we're kind of on holidays. We're coming back to Australia to go to here, and then we go to here and here. And he's just like, why do you guys move around so much? And George is just like, no, I don't make the decisions. Because I think it's been a pretty well-known
Fact?
No, or issue in the F1 that it hops around between the continents. It doesn't really have, let's consider it tours, where, you do your Europe tour, you do your Middle East tour, throw Australia in there somewhere, then you go do the Americans as that. So it's travel. F1 want to be carbon neutral. There's more conversations about that coming up, and the drivers, of course, don't want to, be hopping between countries, because I think they'll do, America, UK, Europe, back to America, and do that a couple times, and it just kind of sucks.
Yeah. So after Azerbaijan, they go to the US for the Miami Grand Prix. Jeez. And then they have 3 races back in Europe, and then they go to Canada, and they come back to Europe for a few races for most of the season. And then they go to Singapore. They do a little tour of Asia with Singapore, Japan. Then they work their way back to Qatar, but then go back to the US.
So there's 2 races in the US, and they do Mexico and Brazil. So they're kind of on the same side of the planet to do those 4 towards the end there.
Sounds like they're a ways off carbon neutral.
Yes.
The way that it's set up.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So, that was kind of the little bit of the talking point. But at the moment, F1's been a bit quiet as they move everything across for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
That'll do us here on the Esky. Thank you to those that have joined in the comments. We do appreciate it. Check us out on the socials. We'll be back next Sunday to wrap up the week that was in footy, cricket, NBA playoffs, NFL draft upcoming, EPL starting to heat up. And another ton. Is that new? Venkatesh Iyer just turned up for KKR in tonight's IPL game. What have we got next week? Anzac Day. Day. Big games on Anzac Day. Number 2 in the AFL take on number 3 in Bombers and Collingwood. D-Day for the Dragons and Hook. And look, as per earlier in the show, if they get tailed up, there may be talk or maybe confirmation of a new coach there at St George Illawarra. NBA playoffs will have a pretty good sort of look at who's going through from those early series fixtures.
2 weeks away, NFL draft.
Yeah, let's go. So we got to preview it next week.
Yep,
have to.
Yeah, have to.
So do your reading. Any NFL fans out there, have a look. Obviously, the likes of Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson.
Anthony Richards is the wild card. So see whether he goes early or goes late.
Bit of fun. There's always something happening in the wide world of sports. There's always something happening here on the Esky. Thank you to those that have listened live and those that are catching the show on all reputable podcast platforms until next week.
Only the reputable ones.
Yeah. As opposed to podcasts are us. This is getting pretty trippy. Anyways,
who's illegally streaming our podcast?
Yeah, VPNs and shit.
Yeah, crackstreams.com.
Messstreams. At messstreams.com. Until that time, lay off the meth and listen to the podcast and check us out on the socials. All right, see you then.
Bye.
Bye.